Many folks ain't never heard of me, so I'ma introduce myself by using some hyperboles. I am that voice that talks a tongue, but no one chatters back. They rather act like bladders acting spasm rappers. Matter of fact, that's so real, I can't say psych nah yet. Feelings that I caught made me feel that caution.
The regular season makes its first mark on a road course tonight. A convergence of historic with the newfound commonly this season, and a series looking between the trees all the way to the National Park of Speed. Live from Virtual Road America, we welcome you to the 8th round in the 4th season of the 2022 4-Wide Racing Cup Series, and of course, welcome to our live coverage right here on MaxSpeedTV. So happy to have you on a Wednesday night. Once again, it is our first trip to a road course this season, and up atop the broadcast booth, Francisco Bacchiao alongside my name is Kenneth Bueno. Francisco, of course, road courses familiar in this series. This series has taken its trip to a couple of tracks across the United States that are usually found in the NASCAR road course calendar, but this is a brand new edition, Road America, one of the most historic venues in all of the United States, and these drivers get to get a crack at it for the very first time tonight.
Very happy to be here up in Wisconsin with you, Kenneth, and we're going to be in for a good road race here today. First one of the season with a brand new car, so it's going to be something we have not seen before. I'm very excited to see how the new car handles with the road racing. We saw it in real life not too long ago at COTA. The cars are a little bit faster. They brake a lot harder. They have the extra gear. We'll see how guys play around with that in the corners, whether you want to take a turn at a lower gear than what you may be used to or a higher one. We'll see how that works out today. But road racing, Kenneth, it's always a challenge because for mainly oval drivers, it's always a struggle to get used to the road mentality.
It definitely is, and these drivers are going to have a lot of fun, and they'll have a good time going under the handful of bridges over here at Road America. We'll dive into that in just a little bit. But first, of course, got to take a little bit of info in as to what this track is all about, where we are. We'll take a look overhead in the virtual world as we'll take a look at our KBRN track map, or MSTV track map, as we call it. Images, of course, provided to us by Google Earth. This track has been around since 1955. It held its first NASCAR Cup Series race in 1956, but did not return to NASCAR Cup competition all the way until 1 year ago, 2021. But it's had its fair share of other NASCAR Series competition. Of course, the NASCAR Xfinity Series had been going here for a while before the Cup Series returned to action. Francisco, this 4.048 mile, 6.5 kilometer track with 14 turns. It is a beauty all across. So when you visit in real life and in the sim, you get to see the scenic views, and it is a challenge for a lot of drivers to handle the elevation changes and the wide variety of corners that you'll be able to find.
It's a lengthy track. It is just past the 4-mile mark, so it takes a long while to really get around here. But the good thing is that it carries a lot of speed with it, so it kind of reduces the times. I think today you'll be seeing about low 2-minute 10-second lap times towards that sort of range, at least in the early portions of runs. So that just goes to show how long it takes to get around the racetrack with these cars. And in that time, the more time that a lap time takes, it gives you more opportunities to make mistakes. And road course racing with these stock cars, the main name of the game is going to be limiting mistakes, because it's going to be a green flag race. We know that there's not going to be any caution flags between the start and the finish, and the person who makes the least amount of mistakes puts himself in the best opportunity to be up in the front. Of course, you're going to need speed, and we know the guys at road courses usually tend to be the fastest and tend to put a bit of a gap between themselves and the field. But at the end of the day, if you don't make mistakes, you're going to get a good result here today, and today's no reason not to be different.
Mistakes are going to be a big topic of conversation that we'll have over the 436 lap race that we'll experience tonight from Road America. But this is not the only road course on the Season 4 schedule for the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series. You take a look at it in the center of your screen. Of course, we've already crossed off Daytona all the way to Pocono. Road America is our next challenge, but our next road course will come a couple of weeks after on April 20. It looks like April 20th or 27th, actually, 2 weeks after Indianapolis. That'll be at the Circuit of the Americas circuit, and then Watkins Glen will be later on in the middle of the summer. Road America, though, and Circuit of the Americas, 2 new additions to the road course calendar. Of course, we have seen Watkins Glen before in previous installments of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series. And, of course, I've seen the Charlotte Roval, that not making an appearance this season. Road America and Circuit of the Americas taking its place. This track has already taken a toll on some of the drivers in qualifying, but a good majority of them have already put in their time. So we'll be all the way heading to the grid, and it'll be our time to take a look at your starting grid, see exactly where every single driver and your favorite driver will be lining up here tonight from the virtual Road America circuit in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. On the front row, you will find the 38 of Lance Hill. He'll be driving a Chevrolet this evening in the Ross Chastain colors, looking to rekindle the magic that Ross Chastain was able to implement at Circuit of the Americas this past weekend. In the 38 car, he puts in a 213.824 to line up on the pole. Lawson Peel has been very quick all season long. He already has 3 wins to his name. He's going to be looking for a 4th one tonight.
Colin Forrester's going to be in that 3rd spot. He's been good at road course races. From what we saw last season, Kenneth was running second to Brandon Smith for the most part at Watkins Glen. He's going to start 3rd tonight with Austin Reedy, already a winner this season, trying to see if he can get some road course success here tonight.
Back to row number 3, you'll find former champion in this series, Scott Healy in the 64. He lines up the top 5. Daniel Michel, the California native, has been quick, has not found success, and maybe he can do something here on the road course as he starts outside of that 3rd row.
Kevin D'Elia is going to be in the 7th spot in that 53, a good qualifying for him, with Craig Lonslugger, a short track specialist, trying to see if he can convert the short track success into a road course.
Curtis Kelly in the 71 will start P9. Corey Allen in the 51 will be alongside him to cap off the top 10.
In 11th place, it's going to be Brandon T. Banks in that 88, decent qualifying for him out here. And AJ Green is going to be a little bit down the order from his Stonk Motorsports teammates, but we know he can more than be likely to make it up.
Bit of work for the defending champion to get up to the front. Tony Kivitt, Cody Kinsey among the drivers that'll be in row number 7. We'll look back to row number 8, Jesse Preece, Jacob Smith, and Preece is the last driver here, Francisco, to take time. So everybody else starting from the rear, and look at the name on the inside of row 9.
Yeah, Brian M. Smith, he's going to have to pass some cars, but I don't doubt the ability of him to be able to get through them rather quickly on these first couple of laps. And even if it takes him a while, he's got a pretty lengthy race to make up the time. We know he's really fast on these road courses, so even though he's starting deep in the field, Kenneth, he is not out of it.
So we'll look through all of the drivers. Christopher Bishop will be the final one in the field, a total of 25 to do battle here for the Virtual Road America circuit. And just in time as we finish, the iRacing official pace car, this time the Porsche safety car, not the Mustang or the sedan we're used to seeing on the oval side of things. That car will make a right all the way to pit road. That little access road is where the drivers will be going up the hill to get some service. But right now, we're ready for some green flag racing. Looks like the field may have stalled just a bit, but it's 2 Chevrolet Camaros. There may be an incident near the rear. It's Lance Hill, Lawson Peel, the 2 Camaros on the front. Barney the flagman has the green flag in hand, and we're ready to go road course racing for the first time in 2022. And
they're
we'll
not.
Stop. Everybody.
They had cars going off in the back of the field, Kenneth, while they were trying to catch up. You saw this back end was really strung out. You had cars going off track, getting into the tire barriers.
We had problems already, so had a feeling that there was going to be something, or at least in trouble, but not this early in the race. We'll try to take a look at the replay as everybody was pretty much at a dead stop, Francisco. It didn't seem like a place where you could get into contact, get into an incident, but I guess I was wrong.
I think it's because they're so lined up close to the start of the race. So there you see the fields right there just before the final corner. It's a short run between where you go, where you are now versus going. You see a couple cars stop there. They're trying to go by, and the field is very strung out. They're trying to catch up just in time for the green flag, and they go too hard through the last corner, and they end up going off the racetrack. You saw a couple guys already on pit road choosing to pit start, but right there you see a car going off the track. The back end of the field is really strung out, and so I guess the admins decided, let's let the field catch up and properly start the race with everybody caught up, which I think is a good idea, Kenneth. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure if that's always the spot that iRacing's had the cars line up prior to a rolling start here on Road America. But if they do have it like that, I feel that maybe moving it a little bit further back, maybe before Canada Corner would be a little bit of a better move.
I guess the admins decided that everybody was too separated, and we'll take a look at the driver who went off course. That is Curtis Kelly, driving a good wench quick lube Chevrolet Camaro, sort of in tribute to Kevin Harvick, and almost touched the tire barriers there in turn 14. That would have been a nightmare If that would have happened, of course, these drivers are awarded fast repairs here in this series, at least one for each and every driver. So if you do get enough damage that your car is pretty much totaled, you can bring it back down to pit lane and, of course, get a fresh race car. But you wouldn't want to do it before lap 1 even starts. And so we'll have an extra pace lap here, and we'll double them up and get ready for what's going to be our initial green flag start here from the Road America circuit. So very bizarre, Francisco, but I have a feeling it's been a while since a majority of the field has raced on a road course in this competition. So I guess they're just getting back to grips with how to deal with road course racing, and of course the starts that go with it. Instead of being in pit lane at the exit on ovals, you're at a certain point in the road course where it'll give you enough time to double up and be there for the green flag. We'll wait one more lap though.
Yeah, it's and we get an opportunity to have a proper pace lap. I mean, it's a very long lap here at Road America, so it's going to take a while for these guys to come back to start finish line. But just like that, they're going to end up going there. You see, actually now they're starting to double up here after the kink, so we are going to go green flag this time. I hope that there's no secondary pace lap shades of Bahrain in 2021 with Formula One having 2 formation laps, but Lance Hill on the pole. Kenneth, we know he's quick on road courses. Lawson Peel, he's shown speed at road courses as well. Brian M. Smith taking an EOL voluntarily, so he's going to start at the tail end of the whole field, and he's going to try and make this fun and drive his way through the field, which in turn will make it fun for us to watch.
Hope to see him carve through the field, but there'll be 2 Camaros waiting for him to get there. It'll, of course, be Lance Hill, Lawson Peel, the 2 L-named drivers going up to Thunder Valley through the Bill Mitchell Bend. What's going to be the last corner, turn 14 under that Rev Bridge. And as soon as they go up the hill, the Porsche safety car will make the right onto pit road. And hopefully, we can have our official first green flag start here in the 2022 Four Wide Racing Cup Series from Road America. There goes the Porsche pace car. It's up to Lance Hill to decide when to go green. The field a little bit separated, a little bit cautious. But nonetheless, we're ready to go green flag racing as the field will sail to turn 1. Again, Barney will have the green, but they'll go up the gears. This time, Lance Hill up and away. We're road course racing from Elkhart Lake.
Oh, and Reedy's going to go off track here off of turn 2 or turn 3. You saw a little bit of contact almost being made, and Reedy's going to go off track on lap 1.
Reedy, though, is going to be able to maintain pace, and you saw a lot of drivers there before they even got to turn 1. Many of them starting on pit road did not want to start on the grid, and we've got more trouble even further behind.
Oh.
That's Corey Allen there with Curtis Kelly. There's Eric Schaefer. I believe Craig Lounslugger is also taking a trip into the gravel. Schaefer's around for good. And Francisco, I talked to you. You said turn 1 was going to be the big no-no point. I said turn 5 going down the hill was going to be the big problem spot. And that indeed seems to be the case. More drivers with trouble. That's the Corvette Bridge they're going around.
And you see another car right there that had just pulled over to the left. See right there, it's the 03 of Brian Dixon. So a lot of trouble going on this first lap, Kenneth. A lot of rust. You see a car spinning further in the back. I think that's Schaefer again.
More cars in trouble. It has been a very chaotic first lap, and of course not surprised to see drivers maybe diving in a little bit too much and maybe some having trouble here. We'll take a look at the replay. That's Corey Allen and Curtis Kelly. I don't think there was contact, Francisco, between the 2. I just think they both overshot the corner, locked up the brakes. Actually, no, Curtis Kelly gives him the shove. But obviously, it makes it way harder to slow down to hop on the brakes. That Schaefer, I believe he was trying to get out of harm's way. He was going to hit Lawson Peel on the way there, who, by the way, lost a bunch of positions since the drop of the green. And that's Curtis Kelly getting turned around by Allen as more damage is assisted here on the Chevrolet Camaro. We'll see Brian Dixon get into trouble along with Brandon Banks. You see them both go around here.
Oh, and Smith has gone out.
More
Jacob
drivers.
Smith is...
So a lot of trouble here already. There's Corey Allen again off. This is live feed right now. And here's Brian M. Smith, who's already moved up to 8th. Francisco, there's just a lot going on. There's Corey Allen, who's in 11th. And there's already the assessment of the damage. Heavy rear end and heavy front end damage on the Camry. A Kyle Busch tribute paint scheme. He's going to have a lot to deal with over the first 2 laps already out of 36.
Yeah, that was probably the most active first lap at a road course that I've seen so far. It was hectic all over the place since turn 3, and there was not enough time to really cover it all. But a sort of recap there that you saw, turn 3, a couple of incidents, turn 5, several incidents, going up through 7 and 8, a couple more, and throughout the rest of the lap, a couple scattered instances. But you see Colin Forster settling into the 2nd position, trying to see if he can hold off. Looks like, though, that's going to be the 64 of Scott Healy that has moved his way up to a 3rd. So pretty good start for him. Lawson Peel, though, did not have that great of a start. He's down in 5th after qualifying on the front row, Kenneth, and had that contact briefly with Reedy, which is what sent Reedy off the racetrack. Reedy down in 13th right now. But Lawson Peel's got some work to do. He's got to make up spots that he really, in his mind, shouldn't have to be making up because he started ahead of these guys.
That is definitely true, but if there was one thing you noticed there on the opening jump after, of course, so we had to delay the green by just a little bit, he laid back. There was a lot of distance between not only himself and the pole sitter Lance Hill, but also big distance between himself and everybody behind him on that outside lane. So even the fact that he started so far behind Lance Hill and not directly next to him, it allowed guys like Forster, like Scott Healy, and like Kevin D'Elia to easily make work of the 12. And obviously Lawson Peel started 2nd. He's back to 5th, although he's got a good margin back to AJ Green, who's in P6, as he tries to work on what's going to be the battle for 3rd. Kevin D'Elia, Scott Healy among the drivers closest to each other on the racetrack, of course, getting up to Forster and Lance Hill. So already a lot of drama here in the opening lap from Road America. Probably not surprised to see drivers in some sort of trouble or in some sort of drama. And speaking of which, that's Brandon Banks going off of Canada Corner.
That's the 3rd time he's gone off, and he's going to get loose and hit the wall once more. So not the first 3 laps that Brandon Banks has wanted to have in this one. A pretty damaged race car, lost a ton of spots after a decent qualifying effort. And you see it right there. He's side by side with somebody and going into Canada Corner with these stock cars. You have to brake really early, really before that little kink ends. So went in too deep even for these new brakes and locks up the tires and goes off the racetrack into the sand. The good thing is he didn't hit the tire barrier, but then later on he ended up hitting that concrete wall right up there. So not exactly what Brandon Banks wanted. But I'll tell you what, the winner of the first 2 laps has been the 78. He decided to take an EOL on that start, and he ended up starting tail end around the 19th spot or so, given the 6 cars that decided to take the pit start. But you see right there, just a huge advantage under braking, and Kinsey's going to give it to him. He knows this 78 is going to outrun him in this race, just wants to keep his car on the racetrack and salvage a top 10. 78 is not somebody he's going to be racing for the win in this one. So Brian M. Smith now up to 7th through 2.5 laps of this one. I think it was a pretty successful start for if you're the 78.
Definitely successful, but no surprise that Smith does well on road courses. He's been one of the road course aces here in this Worldwide Racing Cup Series. As we take a look on board for 5th place Lawson Peel, we may see a battle here develop even closer. Lawson Peel has a chance to get back up to the place where he started. Scott Healy made up a spot on Colin Forster to move one of the former champions in the series up to 2nd in front of the 99. But Smith, he knows how to win at road courses, and Francisco, I think if we counted the exact amount of times Brian M. Smith probably should have won road course races when he was very close, and if he didn't give up or didn't DNF or have a problem, we would probably have more than enough to scour all 10 of our fingers and maybe all 10 of our toes, because Smith is just so good at these left and right hand racetracks, and we know his potential. There's just been a lot of unfinished business, I think, in this series. If you're Smith, although he does have a couple of wins on the road courses, one of them Watkins Glen.
Yeah, he won Watkins Glen last season, and he also won the Daytona road course back in season 2, so he's been good at these road courses. He was definitely on pace to be able to win a Charlotte road course race in season 2 as well, but left that one, handing it to Kyle Benson. But every single time we show up to a road course, Kenneth, Brian M. Smith is the guy that everybody talks about that you have to beat in order to try and win the race. And for the most part, most people just can't do it, and it's just the outright pace of that 78 is just far faster than most of the field. But we see guys that are usually just fast enough to really keep up with them in the sense of just staying close enough that if anything were to happen, they can capitalize. And I think him being behind those same guys is going to be proved very tough to pass, because normally he's already ahead of them and it's just holding off charges. Now he has to actually get by them for position, which is going to be, again, fun to watch, but interesting to see how he does so. But Forster's going to go wide and kind of gets on the grass, and you see him going to slide a bit, but those two cars are going to get by him on the final corner as they come to the pit straight.
That was a look at the replay, and that's exactly why Forster is listed as 4th on the running order. Obviously still in front of Kevin D'Elia, but lost the spot to the 12 with Lawson Peel, and they may bring in Forster's teammate very soon, AJ Green in the 48, who is starting to clamor in here on D'Elia. See a bit of the right side damage on the Chevrolet Camaro, and there you can see the distance between the defending champion and Brian M. Smith, one of the road course veterans here in this series. So already 5.5 seconds between Lance Hill, your race leader, Scott Healy, who has since moved into 2nd with the first 4 laps, and it has been clean, smooth sailing for the driver of the 38. He'll head through the Kettle Bottoms, that is over to Canada Corner, and of course he'll head through Thunder Valley, the Bill Mitchell Bend, and then the final corner, turn 14, before going back up the hill. And Francisco, this is a shorter race significantly than a lot of the oval races we have on the schedule. Obviously, when we go to the short tracks, usually we go maybe upwards of 200 laps. On the intermediates, we go at least more than 130 in most cases, but here at the road course, we only have 36, and that equates, at least with the fastest lap time put in practice, to 1 hour and 19 minutes. Obviously, that is not certain. That is almost an approximation there. It's a rough estimate, but it does mean that usually in this race, you're probably going to spend a lot shorter of a time going around from start to finish than you would at a lot of the ovals, so you may also have to put that into equation if you're a racing driver, figuring out the timing, when you're going to strategize yourself to be at the start, of course, how you're going to get to the finish in the time that you're giving.
Yeah, so of course racing usually shorter in terms of lap distance or lap count than most oval racetracks because of the longer length, the longer lap times, the slower speed. So you have to accommodate for all of that. Tonight we have 36. You mentioned about 1 hour and 20 or so minutes in this race. 36 laps is about 145-mile distance, so it's a 145-mile race that'll get done in that amount of time. And I think tonight we're going to be seeing a 2-stop strategy. With the fuel they have, 75%, they'll be able to go about 14 laps. You get about a gallon per lap, so 14 or so laps is probably the window you want to go, because if you go by pit road and you're really stretching it on fuel, if you run out at any point in the lap, really, it is going to be hard to come back to pit road, even if it's off the last corner, because you have to climb up the hill. You see the 51 blocking up behind Tony Kivett. He makes the corner. You see a pass for position a little bit further back as well. They're going to cross over and race that one out. That's Curtis Kelly right there. But we're going to be seeing the 2-stop strategy here tonight, Kenneth, regardless of when you decide to pit, because you have 14 and 14, meaning 28. That means you have at least an 8-lap run to do it if you're trying to split 2 runs equal. So I think you might see some guys probably go for, I'd say, somewhere in the 9 and 9, as the 51's going to go off track here. But I think 9, 9, and 9 is probably going to be the strategy we see here, or not 9, 9, I'm sorry, that would be a 3-stop. I think we're going to see 12s here tonight.
That may be the case, and of course, one thing to consider here in these road course events, there are no yellow flags. Of course, race control can throw them if they want to, but in normal iRacing road course rules, yellow flags do not come out, at least on the full course side. If somebody gets into an incident in a certain corner, driver will see a yellow flag appear for just a little bit on your racing screen before you get by the incident, and then that will be just a local yellow, won't stop the field entirely. So if you want to strategize on pit road and trying to make it to the end on fuel, you're going to have to keep that into account. This whole race will stay green from start to finish no matter what, so you got to also keep that in mind. There's a look at Lawson Peel, who is starting to close in a little bit on the 64 of Scott Healy. Healy may have to look in the rearview mirror a little bit more than he was over the past 5 laps. We'll take a look at that and obviously monitor that, see if we end up with a battle for second. But of course, Lance Hill continues to run away, and as we see a possible fight for what's going to be P4 here, Colin Forster and Kevin D'Elia. One name, though, Francisco, that I do not see here in this running order. Obviously, well, there's 2, but there's one that I keep in mind more often. Kyle Benson, a driver who's very good on road course races, a driver who's been stellar on many certain occasions. He's a previous winner at the Charlotte Roval, so he knows what it's like, much like Brian M. Smith, to handle these types of tracks and do well at. he's not here tonight. I believe work in the way of making the time slot here in this race. So Benson not able to try and fight for what will be his first win this season, as he continued right on board with Forster. So unfortunate to see Kyle Benson, also your league owner Tyler Murray, not here. He's away. So Austin Reedy, the race admin for tonight's event.
So actually, I do have some information on why Benson, at least, is not here. He does not own the racetrack.
All right, well, that's more simple than I thought. I have talked to him in previous times, and he has said that work has gotten in the way of making some of the races, but I guess if it's not owning the National Park of Speed on the iRacing service, maybe that's just a good enough excuse to sit this one out, maybe watch the chaos as it unfolds, because I feel like if you're Benson, you probably would not have wanted to be in the midfield when everything went down on that first lap, because you do not want to end up tarnishing your race by somebody locking up or somebody making a mistake or what have you. So unfortunately, Benson not able to fight for points or a win tonight, but sure to see him at Loudon 1 week from tonight when we get back to oval racing.
That's probably why he's working so much, Kenneth. He wants to make money so he can buy all these racetracks. He doesn't want to be missing these races.
That is true. That is true. Of course, iRacing with the monopoly they have over the sim racing world. Gotta buy all the tracks as we continue to look for second. We'll dive through most of the rest of the field. A lot of them pretty much separated. That is the name of the game here at these road course races. And obviously, like I said, with the lack of yellows, you won't see the whole field packing up together. We'll mostly see that around the green flag strategy part. There may have been an issue here with the Drinking Bros Camaro. That's a new paint scheme, by the way. Bud Light car for Michael Newbraw. And it appears he's gone around just before the carousel. That is actually entrance to what I believe is turn 7, Francisco, the hurry downs. You see here, come up the Corvette bridge. She'll be okay on this left-hander, but it's this next right-hander that is the big problem.
Yeah, this little, just before it actually, I think when he shifted or something of the sorts, the car just broke on him, and he's trying to keep it under control, so a tough time. And you can see he has some damage there already existing on his race car, so just not an ideal start for him so far. You see right here, he's going to exit the corner. He seems to be fine, gets a little loose and keeps the power in it, and I think that's exactly what turned him sideways. Just kept the foot in it when just a little bit of a lift probably could have helped his cause. Outside of that, Kenneth, we have our first retirement of the race. Daniel Michel is out of the race. He's going to finish in the 25th spot. And right now, it looks as though Austin Reedy has been catching up to Brian M. Smith, who has been losing time to the front couple of cars. He has not been gaining ever since he's moved up into 6th, Kenneth. So I think it's a real shocker to see the 78 not making ground, in fact, being run down.
You take a look here. That was a replay of Jesse Prees, who lost a couple of spots, went off in that corner, and of course almost hit the wall. There's a look at Smith. This battle with Reedy for P6 on the racetrack is coming to the carousel here. Reedy gaining a lot of time there in the second half. This will go all the way to the kink. And Smith is going to go around. He's going to be able to save it. I believe masterclass job to hold the brakes and lock up the car before it got sent into the concrete barrier. Brian M. Smith will lose a spot there to Reedy, but I think that's something he'd take better than a car slammed into the wall.
Yeah, definitely a good job making sure he hit nothing there, and he's going to keep the car under him. We're going to get a second look at this, and you see right there, it really started with that slip up there. It set him off from what his normal pace was, and he got really loose trying to keep it on the racetrack, and he really did. He never really used the grass to save the race car, and he was able to keep it on the asphalt, pointed in the right direction, lost a spot, lost a good bit of time on top of what he's already been losing. So the initial start went well for the 78, but the laps afterwards has not been what he has wanted. He's probably struggling on these tires. He's really losing time. And if you're the top 5, Kenneth, if you see the 78 is losing time, I think you realize, hey, this is an opportunity to maybe win this race.
It definitely is free game, and these drivers are among the group that may be looking forward, as Forrester almost lost the race car coming out of what looks to be turn 3 under the Sargento Bridge, and now here comes D'Elia. Possible move to the inside is blocked off. He'll wait again. This is going to be turn 5, a very hard braking zone. D'Elia will not force the issue, and he'll stay behind the 99, maybe wait patiently for the next opportunity. One thing, though, especially in that instance with Brian M. Smith, Francisco, it just turns back to what's been a new accustomed to this next-gen car, or hand the position over to Kevin D'Elia. And one new thing about these next-gen cars is that there is barely any side force, if not any at all. The symmetrical bodies eliminate most of the side force that the Gen 6 car used to have. And obviously when you get sideways, that happens. It's hard to save it. D'Elia into the wall underneath the Johnsonville Speedway Bridge.
A spin from inside the top 5. He's going to try and get it underway. It looks like Reedy is going to take that position away, so move the 11 up into the top 5 after that spin on lap 1. That we're going to get we'll see if we can get a look at that once again from the 53 of D'Elia. Just unfortunate running inside the top 5 kind of by himself at the time, and it looks as though it was ahead of Forster by then. And he looks as though he went through the corner like normal. And I think on exit, kind of got a little bit greedy with the power. You see right there's a little bit of a dip when you get to the curb. And you see right there actually clips the grass. That's what sends him down.
The grass, very deadly here at Road America. And if there's one thing about this track, is that it barely has any runoff
he's
areas.
gone off again.
I believe another issue here for D'Elia, and this time it's in Canada corner. There's Brian M. Smith who's going to swivel around. But D'Elia, once again, more problems in this one under the hard braking zone. Here's a look at him going through the kink. That's all the way through the kettle bottoms. And then, of course, this is going to be the hard braking zone. One of the handful here at this track. Canada corner, that's turn 12. And just sends it in way too deep, Francisco. Then goes into the gravel and slams into the tire barrier square enough on the left side of the race car. And again, reverting to my point, there's barely any, if not, no runoff at this track here at Road America. So if you do make mistakes, there's grass, there's gravel, there's walls all around, and they will not save you.
And that's kind of a topic of its own, at least not so much with NASCAR, but in terms of the open wheel racing, the Indy cars and Formula One, the discussion's always track limits, and we don't see much track limits with NASCAR except for a couple corners. But usually when you go to a racetrack that has pavement all the way around the normal racing line, so let's say COTA, for example, there's a lot of runoff there, but you don't really see guys able to go off there in the open wheel cars. They try to restrict the track limits to the white lines, and as someone who is a little bit appreciative of that as well, just trying to set what the actual racetrack is, I do like the track limits being set to the white lines when you have those instances. That's why I also love these kind of racetracks. It's the white line is the edge of the racetrack. If you go over that white line, you're finding yourself in either sand or grass or some dirt, and that's not going to be helpful. So it does force the drivers to stay within the actual track limits between those white lines. When we end up going to COTA, you're going to see guys kind of going wide a couple times, especially on the exit of, I believe it's turn 18, just the second to last quarter of COTA, maybe in the S's a couple times. You see Peel now looking to the inside of the 64 of Healy. Healy's going to go wide, so move the 12 up to that position. Healy's able to stay in third. But I think Kenneth and COTA is where we're going to see primarily an example of the track limits. And curiously enough, because we haven't seen a track like that where you can really push the track limits, I'm wondering, what will the league admins do about track limits? Will they set any of their own track limits?
It's going to be very interesting, and we've known, obviously as NASCAR fans ourselves, that at the road courses, especially at Circuit of the Americas, where you have a lot of asphalt, where you have a lot of pavement on the outside of certain turns, or pretty much every turn on the racetrack, NASCAR doesn't really enforce track limits. So let's say turn 19, the turn right before turn 20, the last corner, you'll see drivers use all of the pavement available, even if it's outside the white lines on the racing surface, as many would call it, and they're able to use it because NASCAR doesn't enforce those rules. So maybe the Fort Wide Racing Cup Series admin team can take a look at that, maybe be a little more lenient by the time we get to Circuit of the Americas. And as we know on the iRacing service, they're very stingent on those track limit lines, and if you get past them even by just a little bit, it'll give you that off track. And we do know that in certain leagues, including this one, there are incident penalties to be awarded, of course, if you go over that threshold. We'll see at Circuit of the Americas whether that is a problem, but fortunately all the pavement that would be on the runoff of many turns at every other track is replaced by grass and gravel here at Road America. So turns out no problem if you overshoot a corner. You're just going to lose all of your time, lose all of your grip, trying to make sure you can get back onto the racing surface. Here's a look at Austin Reedy, just moved into the top 5. This is him catching up to a lap car. We'll officially identify that is the 15 car he's catching up to. That's Jacob Smith, who's got a heavily torn up front end, actually just repaired it. Fast repair on the Ford Mustang there for the 15, but that is a lap car, of course, on the track. And Reedy had just gone by Brian M. Smith. So now that we're under green flag circumstances, Francisco, of course, strategy and lap traffic going to play a hand. And now it's all up to really Lance Hill to control the cards. He's pretty much paced the entire field. He's up to 6.5 seconds on Lawson Peel, so he's got the ability to change the rhythm of this race if he wants to. I don't think he does, but he does have the opportunity to change hands just a little bit when we get down to pit lane strategy.
And speaking of pit lane, in the next couple of laps, you're going to see guys possibly start heading down pit road. You can do so now. I don't think we'll see the 38 come in yet, just because you can go at least another 3 laps safely. So I think Hill's going to keep pacing around, waiting to see what the other guys do if they're willing to try something different to make up some ground. So he's going to keep leading this race, put a couple more cars a lap down. And like I said, no one else really biting on pit road at this current moment in time. They have at least another 3 laps. And sometime in those 3 laps, somebody's going to decide to come down pit road. And it might be universal in the sense that it might be in the same 1 to 2 lap stretch, because no one's really in a tough battle. I think if you have guys that are in a tight battle for a good position up at the front of the field, you might have some differing strategies. But I think because it's such a tight window and making the 2-stop work as is, you're not going to really see much variation in that. A close call there as Priest is trying to stay to the right-hand side, let him go with all that damage. He's going to bring it down to pit road. But Lance Hill, Kenneth, yeah, you mentioned it, no cup wins for the driver, the 38. He's trying to get his first one, and it's going to be, hopefully for his sake, he can get it done. You know, he's been in the series for a while. All his teammates have been able to get wins. Alice Shires won. The 99 Enforcers won several times. And, of course, AJ Green has won 1 race, and he's also the series champion. So I think Lance Hill sees that and feels that he has to perform to the standards of his teammates. And he has the speed to do so. You see a little bit of a mistake there, actually. He's able to keep it between the white lines. I think he looks at what his teammates are able to do, and he really wants to show that he is just like that. And I think so far today, through these 12 laps, he has shown that he can do so, because you have to keep in mind, Kenneth, yes, it's a road race. Yes, it's usually a standard when it comes to road racing in the sense of usually the same guys will be up there regardless of circumstance. But I think one key factor you still have to take into account is that the Gen 7 next-gen NASCAR Cup Series cars are just completely different to the Gen 6s, so maybe that could be a possible attribution to why we're seeing Brian M. Smith down the order. Because I don't see any damage on his race car. I see a lot of sliding around. It just shows me that he's not exactly comfortable with that race car. And actually, he's on pit road now. It's like the fuel window is, well, it is open. It is that lap 12 mark. So I think we're going to start seeing guys make their way down pit road and start splitting this race up into 3-12 runs.
So Smith, one of the first drivers to come in. Of course, Jesse Priest has logged in his pit stall. That is for damage repair to get a fast repair. Curtis Kelly is also in as well. Corey Allen, we saw him approach into the screen for just a little bit as Brian M. Smith was exiting out. So Smith will exit. He'll get to turn 1. He'll merge back with the field. Of course, he has fallen with that pit stop down to 13th. And if there's one thing to note about this track, Road America, and pit road at this venue, is that it takes a very long time to get from pit road entrance at the top of the hill to pit road exit going back to turn 1. And obviously there have been a lot of races held here at Road America, and many times there's been that conversation of the pit delta, how long it takes to get into the lane to be there at pit road speed limit and to get into your box as your leader Lance Hill will make his call here on lap 12:36, 1/3 of the way in. So the 38 will stop to pit road speed limit, and he'll trot all the way
Peel's
to the very
follow.
first pit box. Lawson Peel will follow suit. We'll take an eye if Scott Healy does the same.
No.
He will stay out, but also has to take this into account, Francisco, the very long time it takes to spend going for service. And everybody has to keep that in mind when it comes to cycling out at the right place, right time. Forster will also step in.
So the interesting thing about Road America, Kenneth, is that it has an uncharacteristically long pit road. It is very long of a pit road here because it's mainly for endurance races, and you need all those pit stalls for all the cars that tend to run an endurance race. So that's the long pit road. So it's such a long distance that you have to go, I believe it's 40 or 45 miles an hour. Let me check that real quick. It's indeed going to be 45 miles an hour pit road speed, but still, it's a long distance, and compared to race speeds that you'd be going, that is not ideal. And look, Forster looks like he overshot his pit stall for a brief second. Indeed, he did, because he's right on par with the 11 on timing in the pit lane. You see another car in, that's Craig Lautenschlager in. See another one in there, that's the 33 of Tyler Warner. More cars following suit. There's Kevin DeLeo, who's without a hood now. He makes his way on the pit road with Brandon Banks. So lap 12, lap 13 is the range where we're starting to see most of the field come in. AJ Green is running in the 9th spot. That's actually him. I said Kevin DeLeo. That's AJ Green without a hood on his race car. Has a similar paint. There's the 53 on the racetrack. Craig Lautenschlager finishing left sides as Warner's exiting. But Kenneth, this is the first green flag pit stop sequence that we're going to have in this race out of the two. And I think this one's going to set the tone, because if you have somebody that had a better entry, better exit, or something like that, they're going to have to take advantage of any time gained or lost in whichever way you're looking at it, that it ends up benefiting you, because that could determine the momentum you carry into the next run. If you lost time, you might be a little bit more less confident in trying to keep the gap up, and that could play mind games.
Definitely can. You watch Lawson Peel get around Cody Kinsey with that long stretch that takes you from pit road entry to pit road exit. I think Healy may be shaking in his boots just a little bit, as Lance Hill will have to overcome a lot of time, and that should be enough time to get back to the race lead and cycle. Once Healy gets all the way to pit road speed limit, we'll take an eye. He'll veer to the right. Scott Healy will end up on pit road. We'll find out a driver who seems to be in trouble, and it's the winner from last week. There's Eric Schaefer. We saw him get in trouble on the opening lap of the race, and it has not gotten any better for the Camaro this evening.
He just had a crash there around the bend. It looks like he was going down the straightaway by himself, really. He had no one around him, and I think he got a little bit wide off of the carousel. He's going to dip a tire or two into the grass, stays on it. That loosens the car, and you mentioned it earlier. If the car gets loose with no side force, it is very difficult to hang on to. You see the curb extends right there, but he just stays on it for too long, gets grass. Oh, it's going to be a hard hit. Boom. Hits that wall, and he's going to hit, I think he doesn't hit this one, but that's going to do it for him. No front end and severe damage.
That is intense and a very vicious hit for the driver of the 22. Luckily, Schaefer is able to move it to pit road under his own terms, so he's not going to tow the race car. But the problem for Schaefer is that he does not have a fast repair eligible for him. That's Jacob Smith, though, going around. Just looking at your leader, that's the 15. Going for a spin, the front clip ripped off of the Ford Mustang. That is turn 3. He was just exiting, so maybe a similar situation as Schaefer, nabbing the grass in the car, getting sent sideways. We'll take a look at it. This is just behind Lance Hill, by the way, Francisco, your race leader. So as we were diagnosing what happened to Eric Schaefer, there was another problem here with the likes of Jacob Smith, and same deal for Newbraw, who also went off.
A lot of action went on around Lance Hill, but I think he was glad to be exactly where he happened to be, both behind it and in front of it, so he had nothing to do with what was going on there. So he's able to stay in the lead of the race. And two more losses in this race. We've lost Corey Allen, connection issues there, and Eric Schaefer has called it quits after he brought the car back to pit road. So that brings the car retirement count up to 3 in this one. So we're down to 22 runners left out on the racetrack, 18 cars on the lead lap. And for the most part, the top 4 are still relatively close together within a pit delta. So I think once you come down pit road for the second green flag pit stop, you're probably not going to lose too many spots in the overarching scheme of things, because you look back at Reedy, who's the driver in fifth or so. It's about 30 seconds, so it's close enough to the pit window. And a close call for Scott Healy through the kink. Michael Newbraw was slow, and he had to really check up for him, so it was a close call for the driver running second place.
Very close call there, as Scott Healy will fall back to fourth. And it does not get any easier for the drivers here, Francisco. And just because you have pace here, Road America, it does not equal success over 36 laps. Because, Francisco, you brought up a very big word, and I touched on it. I tagged off of you once you said it. Mistakes, very big at these road course races, as it looks like the 35 has just gone off course. That seems to be Cody Neal in the Mustang. He will not hit anything. He'll continue very cleanly. But mistakes, very important, and something you got to avoid if you're a driver here at this track, because if it happens to you, you may end up in a wall, you may end up in a tire barrier, and your race could be over, or pretty much set in stone when it comes to being in contention for the race win. So even if you're the fastest driver on track, even if you're dominating the race, you are still prone to those little mishaps that may take you out of the competition. Lance Hill falling to Lawson Peel just a bit. The gap has shortened to about half a second, but mistakes may play into this factor, and Peel, Francisco, may have an opportunity to put Hill on his toes and make him worry just a little bit.
Peel's been fast in this race. He was able to stay within about 6 seconds or so for most of that run, and had a really good pit stop sequence. That's really where he gained the time on the 38 of Hill. But also remember what I talked about. You have a good entry, good exit. It could really put you in a different spot. And now that he has Lance Hill looking in his mirror, having to check the gap to see where he actually physically is, it's a different race. It's different when you have to measure a time versus when you actually have to measure an object. And that's what's helping the 12 do some justice right now for this race lead. So he's trying to hook that line, really make sure he can stay right in the mirror of that 38, have him looking behind him, try to force him into a mistake at some point, perhaps under braking, and try and see if he can capitalize on that. He's been closing ever since the pit stops. So this race has turned a little bit, Kenneth. We saw a little bit of a gap being stretched out by Lance Hill. Now he's going to have to fight Lawson Peel for it, and they're 13 seconds clear of Scott Healy. What a big dive.
Big dive there from Lawson Peel. That is entering Canada corner. He's not going to be able to make the pass complete or get the nose underneath Lance Hill. So Hill would keep into the race lead. And as we were looking on board with both Peel and Hill, the clouds are starting to cover the sunshine here, Road America, and the storm is brewing for the race lead. I think, though, Francisco, that dive from Peel lost him just a little bit. He was pretty much on the back bumper of Hill at that point of the racetrack, but he made that dive, lost out on the battle, and now he has to hit the reset button and do it all over again.
Yeah, and one thing I did notice, Kenneth, when we were on board looking back from Hill onto the 12 of Peel, is that what you can really tell when the brake rotors are glowing on these cars, and Hill's actually going to go wide right there. He's going to go off the racetrack sideways. Peel checks up for him because he's not sure where he's going to go. He's going to look to the inside, and he's going to get shut off right there. So excellent move by Hill there to properly cover the racetrack after going off the track. That kind of gives you a bit of a reminder at Montreal with Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton a couple of years ago. That instance, they got a penalty. Here, it's all good. Hill with the fantastic defense on the 12th to try and keep him behind, but here we go into the brake zone. Peel looking to the inside. He's not going to take it yet. He's going to stay behind. Be patient, but that was a close call, Kenneth. That easily could have given the 12 the lead. He checked up, making sure he knew where Hill was going to go, and once he realized where he was going to go, he tried to stick a nose in there, and Hill said, no, I am covering the whole racetrack.
Well, we've seen the phenomenon with these next-gen cars that after you save it, the car can still step out. So I think Peel was just making sure that Hill could keep the car directly under control without it weaving all over the place. And then Peel slowed down and then tried to make his attack, but Hill immediately sent the doors shut and blocked the 12 of any advance there going into turn 3. And now Peel just has to keep himself right there tucked to the back bumper. But one thing there, Francisco, that is a positive to Peel, he forced Hill into a mistake. This is really the first time that Lance Hill has faced any pressure here, Road America, over the first 16 laps. Normally he's been around 5.5, 6 seconds ahead of the rest of the field, but now it's down to less than half a second, and him having a car that close to him, especially for the race lead, may force him to worry and force him into those little mistakes, sending off course and getting the most out of the race car, but just pushing a little bit too hard.
And this is different for us, Kenneth. Normally when we're at the road courses, we're used to the large gaps and strategy games and mistakes being what determines a big gap or not. But right now we're seeing an actual battle for the top position. We don't get to see this very often at the road courses. Usually it's Brian M. Smith running away with things after a certain amount of laps, but we're just around the halfway point, and you see about a second right now is what separates the top two. So I'd say that it's still fair game, and if Peel's able to make the gains that he did on pit road when it's time for the second set of stops, there's nothing that doesn't tell me that it's still in the chance that Lawson Peel could wind up on the road course and taking home another race win. I say we go on board with the 12 of Peel for a good portion of the lap here, just so the viewers can get a good sense of what it's like to drive around here.
So that's turn 3, bit of a bobble there out of Peel, lost a lot of time, and then this is one of the longest straights here at Road America underneath the Sargento Bridge, going into what's called the Moraine Sweep, turn 5. The hardest braking zone here at this track, all the way down the hill. You go pretty much all the way to first gear as you see Lawson Peel crank into it. And the left-hander, you go up the hill back to the Corvette Bridge. That's turn 6. Then you head over to the Hurry Downs in Francisco. I think this second half of the racetrack, the most technical. That first part is very tough on its own right, but when you get to this part right here, Hurry Downs going to the carousel and beyond, it does not get any easier, and it tests the driver at 150%.
Yeah, and the key thing about the carousel compared to the carousel we have at Watkins Glen, Kenneth, is that even though it's not as tight of a radius, it's a much longer corner. You're in the turn for much more time, and it's not banked like the one at Watkins Glen is. Watkins Glen does have some banking to it naturally because of the elevation. You see just how much longer it is, and then you have another straightaway here, and you have a kink you have to check up here. You're going to see he's going to lift, stay in third gear, flick it to the right, get right back on the throttle. And even though he doesn't have the side force, the downforce by the diffuser and the spoiler of this race car can allow him to go full throttle. He's not going to reach fifth gear in this straightaway, so he's going to start downshifting. I think the only part of the racetrack that you truly probably reach fifth gear is probably that pit straight, perhaps down into the Moraine Sweep before you brake for turn 5. But otherwise, you're using the standard 4 gears that we used to have here before. And right now, as we're completing this lap, with the 12 of Peel just over 2 minutes in time, it goes to show, Kenneth, that to run at this racetrack at all, it is not easy. To run at this racetrack at the speeds that they're running and making as few mistakes as they are, it is much more impressive when you start putting it in the grand scheme of things.
And to run it with a stock car, I think, is even harder, because when you have, let's say, an Indy car, you have a Formula 1 car, many of the open-wheeled or even the GT series cars, you have a lot of downforce, so it is difficult to drive at the limit, no doubt about it, but you're not so delicate on the throttle going through a majority of these corners. When you're with this stock car, as Hill almost lost the car there going out of turn 3, when you have this little downforce with a very heavy stock car, like you see on the NASCAR side of competition, you have to be pretty much treating it like the throttle has an eggshell behind it. You cannot be mashing the throttle and expecting the car to just answer you and do whatever you say. It will try and fight back, and you really have to lash it back to ordnance. And that's something that's very difficult here with these stock cars, especially on old tires. That's going to be something we'll watch for as well, Francisco, at COTA, because while, yes, track temperature kind of pretty hot here at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, it does not compare to the sweltering heat we're going to see in Texas in a couple of weeks.
Of course, we're in Wisconsin, and in sim, it is the May 15th date that is very standard for most league races that don't run a specific time and day. So for the same time and day that it's going to be here versus Texas, it's 104 on the track temperature right now at Texas in May. I'm pretty sure it's going to be close to 120, maybe 130 degrees on the track temperature, given depending on what the actual daytime is, if it's noon or afternoon, the earlier in the day, closer to about 1 or 2 o'clock, it's usually the warmest the track temperature is going to get. So depending on when that all shakes down is going to be the track temperature. But regardless, you're going to have the 20 degrees, 15 to 20 degrees at least warmer track conditions. And 15 to 20 degrees is no joke, Kenneth. 15 to 20 degrees can rip your tires apart, especially at a demanding racetrack. And I think that's the key part. It's not only warmer, it is probably more demanding. You have more corners, you have longer corners, and a lot of medium speed corners. And usually high speed corners, they don't have as much demand because you have forward momentum, and usually the low speed corners, the tire has a pretty good amount of grip. It's the medium speed corners that tend to kill tires because you don't have that much forward momentum and you're going faster than you are at a low speed. So with COTA having a lot of low speed corners, it's going to really rip those tires to shreds at those temperatures.
And the first thing that came to mind when you said that was the S's coming out of turn 1. The difficulty of keeping that car there. And also, it's not very wide. It's a very narrow piece of asphalt in between the curbs. So if you're battling with a car, good luck to you. It's going to take a while, and to get through that, especially at 100%, going all out, it is very tough, and only a certain amount of drivers can master it. Speaking of COTA, the driver in the front, Lance Hill, your pole sitter tonight, wearing a paint scheme that is probably familiar if you were watching the NASCAR Cup Series over the weekend, as here comes Peel, diving to the inside, will not get it. Lance Hill will again shut the door as he tried to ring the doorbell, and he'll stay back in second to Hill, wearing the colors of a fellow Ross Chastain, the Florida native from Alva, and went to victory lane for the very first time in his NASCAR Cup Series career and got a win for Trackhouse Racing. There you see the logo just underneath the right headlight of this Chevrolet Camaro. That's not actually a headlight, it is a decal, but wearing the colors of a road course winner, I think may help you just a little bit, Francisco, if you're the likes of Lance Hill, taking that spirit from COTA in real life and taking it to Road America and maybe even Circuit of the Americas later this year.
Yeah, and he's actually going to go a little bit wide there, maybe try to arc the exit a little bit to get a different exit. But usually some guys they'll run for superstition purposes to paint that won a race. We saw Alex try to do that at Michigan with Chase Briscoe's paint. Unfortunately for him, that race didn't go as good as it's gone for Hill so far. But the 12 appeals just hounding him right now. He has been this close for so long. He's had Hill constantly on the edge of his seat, having to make sure he does everything right to keep the car in front. At this point, Hill's not worried about going as fast as possible as the car had an off just in front of your leaders. He's not worried about having the fastest lap of the race or anything like that. He's just worried about the car staying on the racetrack. You see a spin right there in front of your leaders. That's going to be, looks like the 6 of Michael Newbrough, who had an off and a spin in front of your leaders. So close call there for your top two. They're able to get through clean. They have a bit more clean racetrack before they get to the next lap car, which is Tony Kivick going through into turn 3 now. So a bit of a clean racetrack in front. They're going to be able to keep battling, and soon enough, we're going to be nearing pit stops in about 5 to 6 laps from now. So we're having this battle now, but that green flag pit stop that is still yet to remain, Kenneth, could very well be the decider. They're 20 seconds clear of third place, so it is a straight-up battle between these two.
This is one of the closest, if not the closest battle we've seen on track so far. I think the other one is for P10. That is Curtis Kelly trying to catch up to the 13 of Craig Launslager. But one thing I am noticing here with your race leaders, especially second place Lawson Peel, is that before he had a huge gap to Lance Hill by the time Hill had made his first stop in this race at lap 12. But now that Peel is here, at least within a second, he can find a way to get around Hill on strategy alone and not have to worry about the distance. In fact, he can leverage it to his advantage if possible here as we'll close in on 16 laps to go from Road America. So things are only starting to heat up here in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and it only gets more fun from here. You look at another fight. This is for 7th, just on the latter half of the top 10. That's Cody Kinsey trying to get around defending champion AJ Green. Green has had a consistent race all evening, but just hasn't been one of the spotlight drivers up in the front. I think even in road course nature, just needs a good run here. Good point stay, get out of it with high hopes going in allowed. And as here comes Cody Kinsey to the inside on the start-finish line.
So Kenneth, actually 2 laps ago, Austin Reedy had a big off while battling for position with Kevin D'Elia. That was for the 5th position. Reedy went to the inside of D'Elia, clipped a little bit of the grass on the inside, locked up. D'Elia went by fine, but Reedy just went straight off into the tire barrier, had no hood on his race car, and backed it up, lost a lot of time and was able to continue. But unfortunately, the damage is done. You see right there, pulls out to make the move into turn 1, clips the grass. He's going to lock up. At that point, he is going straight with no grip whatsoever, head on into the tire barrier, no hood on the front of the 11 car. He's going to have to bring it back to pit road soon enough. But he hasn't pitted yet, I don't think, but that's probably due to the fact that he wants to make sure that he has enough fuel to make it to the end of the race, so he doesn't have to stop twice and do more damage to what his race is. Because despite that mistake, Kenneth, he's still in the 6th position, and he's got pretty decent gap to the rest of the field. So if he's able to hold on until pit stops, he can still salvage a top 6 finish.
Here come the leaders, though. As Austin Reedy, we saw that look for the first time in a turn 1, but in a turn 1, Lawson Peel had made the dive and got ahead of Hill for a split second before Hill had taken it back. They used the bumpers coming out of turn 1, going to turn 2 and turn 3 and that was an almost scare if you're Lance Hill when it comes down to commanding the field up front. And you can tell Lawson Peel is not giving an inch despite the run that they've gone on, more than a handful of laps, and entering what's going to be our second pit stop and probably our final for this race. It only continues to get closer, and that time out of turn 5, Peel is right there.
And he had a lockup there going up the hill, so it's going to cost him a little bit of time in the immediate portion of this track. But he had the move done. He had him clear, and the 38 used the bumper, and you see it's a little bit dented in. It was not that big of a hit, just enough to nudge the 12 up, having to force him to check up, allowed the 38 to get side by side with him and clear before turn 3, and kind of is trying to move away now, making sure the 12 doesn't get back to him and try to make the same move work again. But this goes back to what we were talking about. Kenneth Peel has been quick, and he's been hounding this 38 ever since the green flag pit stops. Had a significantly better entry, pit stop time, and exit time combined when you go in and do your stop and come back out. If it's the same margin, Peel is going to like what he's watching. So if I'm Lance Hill, I have to keep an eye on when he pits, because if he has a better entry, maybe Peel wants to pit on a different lap so he doesn't lose the advantage he would gain from entering by staying behind the 38. That's all going on in his mind, perhaps, as we're coming to 15 laps to go. So in a lap or so, the fuel window is going to open to be able to make it to the end of the race. And the question is, which one of these two is going to bite first if someone does, or will they come in on the same lap?
That's going to be a big turning point in this race. And by the way, we know that these two have been tagging along each other for the past handful of laps, and it looks like they're the only two competing for the race win. But don't look away from Scott Healy. I know he's about 20 seconds away, but we also did mention the very long pit delta here at Road America, and on that first pit stop sequence, Healy was a driver to stay out all the way and push it to the limit before going in. So maybe Healy can kind of split this race up between Hill and Peel, and maybe implement himself as the third horse here in the fight to make it for the race win, coming to 15 laps to go. But no doubt Peel has been putting the pressure on Hill. He found a way around that technically was a lead change here at Road America, but he has not been able to maintain in the lead. That's been the biggest thing here, Francisco, if you're Lawson Peel. And at one point, does Hill find a way off and make a huge mistake, or at one point does Peel end up pushing it too far over the Corvette bridge? This moves in at turn 6. Peel inside for the race lead.
They're going to be side by side. Hill's going to be on the curb. They're going to stay side by side going into 7. They're going to stay side by side. It looks as though Peel's going to get the run on the outside. Hill still has a nose. He gets clear. Does he try to make the comeback into this corner? He's going to get into the back of the 12. He's giving him the bumper going into this turn. And Peel able to keep the car under him going into the carousel. Move the 12 to the front of the lead.
What a move going up to turn 6. Usually we do not see passes happen at that section of the racetrack, but Peel found the nose. Peel made the hard dive, and Lawson Peel is to the race lead for the very first time tonight from Road America. And now Hill has to answer, Francisco, whether it comes from pit road or not, as Hill ends up in the grass coming out of the kink. Now Hill has to find the way to respond at some point, and this could hurt the 38's chances of winning as we approach 14 laps to go. The pit road window pretty much already opening, and it's up to these two to either settle the score on track or try and find an answer to the checkered flag on pit road.
Yeah, but Peel's not driving away, though, and I think that's an important thing to note, is that he got passed almost a lap ago, but he has not driven away from the 38, so Hill very much keeping the 12 in his sights, and he might have a chance here in the next lap or so if Peel makes some form of mistake. I think they're not going to pit yet because the fuel window is right now on the edge, and any sort of fuel saving is going to cost you big time in the overall race for the win. So I think these guys might go another lap after this one, and perhaps try to pit with 13 laps to go and be able to be safe from fuel. You saw a really good corner there from Hill. He's going to look to the outside, going into 3, almost contact with the left rear of the 12 of Peel, and they're going to go down the straightaway, and they're going to make contact right there off the corner. It looks like Peel went a little bit wide, so Hill now trying to settle back down. He had to lift for a second. He's going to try and use the draft going down into turn 5. We're going to see if he goes for the move. He's actually going to brake early, probably seeing if the 12 is going to overshoot the corner, maybe try some crossover move. And, oh, he's actually going to go a little bit deep. He let off the brakes, trying to see if he can do some move, and that did not work out for him at all. He's going to lose a good bit of time there But this fantastic racing we're seeing from these two.
It's amazing
Oh, look at
stuff.
that
And the
slide.
12 makes a mistake there coming out of turn 6, the same place where you made the pass for the lead.
Oh, he's gonna
Here
give him the
comes
bumper.
Hill with a bumper, and he almost loses the car. This will go down the hill on the way to the carousel and the kink.
Oh,
Bit of a
lock it
lockup
up.
there. Smoke from both of the cars. Hill will overshoot by just a hair. They'll sling into the carousel. And this has not stopped. You'd expect after the pass that Peel made going into turn 6 that Hill may fall back and may concede. But he has tried to respond and tried to get the fist back into Peel's face. That's a lap car, Tony Kivet, as the top two go back into the kink. And by the way, they're losing a bit of time to Scott Healy while they're trying to scuffle. Scott Healy has worked his way up by a couple of tenths, so maybe something could happen here. If you're the driver of the 64, that time no pass at all from Lance Hill, way too far to make it happen. And I believe we may have had some drama, or actually no, just drama on pit road. Austin Reedy, Kevin D'Elia among those to pit on the pit window.
The pit window, that's as early as the pit window is going to be open. I think they decided to just come in now and work this till the end of the race and kind of deal with it after that. We'll see if any of these two come in. And Hill's going to come in. He's going to peel out. You saw he was waiting to see if the 12 comes in or not. He's going to try the undercut strategy. He's going to pull it down into pit road. Now we're going to see the difference of who has the better entry, who has the better stop, who has the better exit, and who has the better outlap, because we know that the outlap for the 38 is going to be crucial. So we know both of these drivers right now are pushing. We know the 12's pushing on the old tires to try and maximize the gap. We know the 38 is trying to maximize the amount of time he's going to be on pit road, keep that minimum, and then push with the new tires to try and gain as much time as possible on Peel to see if he can gain some sort of an advantage. So right now, the race is being decided at this moment in time, and Healy's going to go slow through turn 1 as he has a bit of an issue. And they have such a big lead on the rest of the field, Kenneth. I think Hill's going to come out in 3rd place. So right now, if even despite Colin Forster not having made a pit stop, he's going to be behind his teammate Lance Hill. And there you see Forster's going down the front straightaway right now. Hill exiting, going into turn 1 now. So I think it's crucial that these guys pulled out enough of a gap like that, because they won't have to pass Forster for position, and they're just able to cycle out into clean air. So now this is going to be the big part. And Hill put in a clean and fast enough lap that can gain him enough time to come out in front of the 12. And if you're the 12 of Peel, you're definitely going to pit this lap. But how aggressive are you trying to make sure that you can have a better entry? And by how much can you really push it by?
It's going to be a big question. We'll find out the answer once Peel comes out of turn 14. Right now, just coming out of the carousel, that'll head over to what is the bend on the other layout here at Road America, but obviously not a factor here. That is Christopher Bishop off the racetrack just in front. We've had a lot of lap traffic trouble, despite the fact that this track is over 4 miles long. Road America, Lawson Peel will head over, dive deep into Canada Corner, and now we just play the waiting game. But I think if you're Lance Hill, that was a really good stop overall, really good entrance and exit to pit lane, because he only lost 1 spot out of that, and that was Scott Healy. Really, he fell back to 2nd. Obviously, Lawson Peel was in the race lead, and then Scott Healy had stayed out. But Hill did not falter to Forster, to Banks, to Kinsey, because the gaps are too long, and his pit stop didn't require any extra time that may have been avoided if a mistake wasn't made. Here comes your leader, Lawson Peel, on pit road. So I think Lance Hill may be the benefactor here. Or maybe, Francisco, we get the dream, and Lance Hill and Lawson Peel end up exactly right beside each other coming into turn 1.
Well, here's the thing. Going side by side into turn 1 with a car exiting pit road has historically not gone well, as Healy's going to pull in. The very first thing that comes to my mind is Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen at Monza last year when Verstappen was exiting pit road. After getting his new tires, you see he had to go around a car there. He had to exit pit road, and Hamilton was coming out of the pits, and they were side by side through the first chicane at Monza, and they made contact, which resulted Verstappen's car on top of Hamilton. And right now, let's look on board with 38 to hit. The 38's going past start finish right now. That Peel's on his way out of pit road. I think they are going to be side by side going into 1, but Hill has the momentum, so he should be out in front, and he is.
But guess what? Lawson Peel has fresher rubber by just a little bit, but it may matter in the grand scheme of things. A gorgeous stop by not only Hill before, but Peel in this latter portion of the strategy in the pit window. Unbelievable stuff, and we are only 12 laps away from the finish of this race at Road America. It's been a stellar battle between these two Camaros, and by the way, They have not left the top two ever since they got close to each other. Remember, Hill was your pole sitter. Hill was in second, dropped off to fifth in the first section of tonight's race, but has since picked things up via strategy and raw pace alone. And now here we sit, 1-2 back on the racetrack. Here comes Pio to the Corvette Bridge.
Contact! They made contact. Pio's gonna try and hold off for now. Almost gets into the 38 again off the corner. You saw the 38 went very wide and had to slow down a lot just to keep the car under him, and that invited Pio, and the 38 has been very aggressive with the blocking. Kenneth, just about as aggressive as you can be while keeping it on the racetrack. These two have given us a fantastic battle. And how about that undercut, though? That was as perfectly executed as possible. It gave him the lead by a car length, but that's really all you needed. As soon as he got clear into turn one, that was the strategy made. Of course, he does have 1 lap older tires, which is 4 miles here, so it's a lot more than what you'd think at a mile and a half or so. But the key thing is that Pio does have to warm them up, and we know that these new tires, they do have some warm-up issues. It takes them a little bit longer to get warmed up with the lower sidewalls and all that. So I do think that Pio's going to have at least a lap before the tires get warmed up, and he's able to really start putting some stuff down on the timesheets. But he is there, and this is going to be the battle for the win. We have just about 45 miles left in this race, so still a bit of ways to go in terms of distance and time. But it's going to be a battle to the finish, right down to the wire, between the two that have given us probably the best road race and best road battle we have seen for the win.
And remember Watkins Glen, how that strategy race went. Brian Smith had put a clinic on the field, and it didn't look like anybody would challenge him at all. But now with these two up at the front of the field, Lance Hill, who has yet to win a race in 2022, versus Lawson Pio, who's already on his third win and looking for his fourth this year. It's been an insane fight, tumultuous up and down from strategy and late diving moves, but it has been a spectacle here in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. And by the way, Francisco, first time we visit Road America in this series, if we're seeing a battle like this for the race lead, I don't think you want to take it off of the schedule.
I'll buy a cheese hat to root for the Packers, and I'll come live up here. I'm loving this right now, Kenneth. It has definitely been one of my favorite road races, if not one of the favorites of mine to be able to watch. It's just been a thriller at the front of the field. Of course, through most of the field, there's been a lot of separation, a couple of good battles throughout. But the fact that the front of the field has been this entertaining, you just can't make this stuff up. And you can't really get it all the time, so we have to appreciate it while we do have it. You see Banks has recovered really good. He's up to the 6th position. I'm not sure if he stopped quite yet, but right now, solidly in the top couple of positions. In fact, he has not come down pit road yet, so he's going to probably come down this next lap or sometime soon. But either way, after the start of the race Brandon Banks has done a pretty masterful job of being able to keep it up and stay up and do the best that he can to try and get the best possible result. And right now, actually, Pio, as we look back to the leaders, he is right behind Lance Hill going through the kick, going down into Canada Corner. So I think he's gotten those tire temperatures right, and he's ready to pounce.
Here we come. That's Canada Corner. They head for the Kettle Bottoms. That's a big block by Hill. And Hill's going to go around into the guardrail as they entered Canada Corner. Peels into the tire barriers. And who will that invite? Maybe Scott Healy. Drama between the two leaders. Hill will get out first. Peel struggling to get back to pace. And that was a absurd moment there as Peel tried to get underneath and Hill made the insane block.
That is not going to go down well. We were talking about it for a while there, and it looks like we had another car off just in front of Healy, the 76 of Kivett. But we're going to look at this again, and an aggressive move by the 12 to go down the inside, but also an equally as aggressive block by the 38 of Hill. And we've been seeing that out of Hill. We've seen him be aggressive with the blocks and just very aggressive there. Probably broke a little bit earlier than the 12 expected. We've seen the 12 been able to be late on the brakes and really make it work. And right there, just caught in a bad place. They finally made contact enough to cause them both to go off the racetrack. But I think what really saved Hill there was that he didn't go into the sand. And that really was able to save him some time. Pio had to, he went in the sand. He had to back up. That all cost him a bunch of time. And of course, they both got damage on their race car, so they're not 100% like they were just beforehand. But the good thing for Hill and Peel, you had such a big gap on Scott Healy that he's still a little bit far back from where you guys are now. So I think barring any individual mistakes now, since they're by themselves, speaking of mistakes, Hill locking up. I think barring any individual mistakes between here and the end of the race, I don't think I don't think Healy has enough of a pace advantage and time to really make up, unless we see that these guys drastically fall off the pace. But I think these guys, given the fact that it is the next gens, they're good for now.
Well, that incident alone, I think, cost Peel a total of over 15 seconds, I believe. On that lap alone, it was a 2:16 by Scott Healy, who obviously is crammed in. It's now 7 seconds between himself and second place Lawson Peel. But that was a big loss by not only Peel, who got pretty much the worst end of it into the tire barriers, but Hill, who went off as well. As he goes off the track into the grass, off of the kink, though, he'll be able to keep it straight. He catches up to a lap car. So a big, dramatic, cathartic instance there going in a Canada corner, and it separates your two leaders. And by the way, we were looking at Brandon Banks, who has since moved into 7th. He has made a trip down pit road as he tries to close in on defending champion AJ Green. That, at that point, was the closest battle for position apart from the race lead. But obviously, that has taken the cake at this point with 10 laps to go. It is 8.2 seconds between Hill and Peel. And Francisco, of course, all good things must come to an end. We saw a great battle for the lead close in very crazy fashion. Maybe we end up seeing another one. We still got time left, but it's going to be a very tough mountain to climb if you're Lawson Peel.
I don't think it's done, because it looks like Hill has more damage than Peel does. Aerodynamically, you can tell the car's a little bit more beat up, but I think something mechanically is probably also wrong with the 38, because he's been going slower around the racetrack, and you do remember he did hit the guardrail, so maybe some suspension damage or some steering damage was done to that 38. The 12 did nose into the tire barrier, but not all that hard, as he makes a mistake right there. He didn't hit it all too hard, and he hit it with the nose onward, so no real suspension or tire damage done to his race car. So I think he's still in a decent enough spot. If he's able to gain ground on your leader, I don't think this is over yet, because we still have 9 laps to go, and at the current moment, about give or take about 38, 37 miles left in the race. I think Peel, if he's able to gain enough time, and if Hill's car is damaged enough, he could get right back up there and we could have another part 2, but it just depends on how much damage is there on the 38 and how much time does he lose due to said damage.
And obviously how much time is left in this race. We're closing in on 8 laps to go. So yes, Pio does have some distance to get back up to the race lead and fight for it, but obviously if he does not end up on course, if he doesn't end up on target, he's going to end up falling short. Gap is now down to 9.7 seconds. Of course, that last time by, it was almost a full 3-second difference in lap time between Hill and Peel. Peel set at 2:15.8. Meanwhile, your race leader set at 2:18.5. So, is still the possibility that these two can get back up to each other once again and make something happen. But Scott Healy is starting to catch up to Lawson Peel by just a bit, so maybe he ends up stalling Peel on the way back to the race lead. There's just so many questions still needed to be answered. And Francisco, I feel like if that incident happened, I'd say maybe 4 or 5 laps earlier, it probably wouldn't have been that big of a deal, just because both of these drivers have faster pairs in tow on pit road if they need them. But because it happened right after what is the final pit stop to make it to the end, it's not going to be a factor whatsoever.
And you have to find the reason why Hill made the car, because he's going for his first win, much like Chastain was doing. So I think he's very much within reason for trying to make that move happen. I think you have 2 guys that were being very aggressive, trying to go for the lead of the race and the win of the race in the absence of Brandon Smith and the sort of slow downfall we saw, because Brandon Smith has just not been that fast in this race. He, of course, has left a couple laps ago, but Brandon Smith has just not been factor in this race, and I think given that opportunity, these guys want to be the one that they're able to claim the trophy, claim the win. And sure, Lawson Peel has won 3 times this season and has 5 career wins. Sure, he wants to add another one, but Lance Hill trying to go for his first win, and sometimes when you want to go for win number 1, you're just willing to do a couple of more aggressive things. You're willing to put it more on the line than you are for somebody trying to go for just another one.
And you think about Lance Hill's pace over the first handful of races this season, and he's had it. He's definitely had pace to run up front, to run for race wins. The problem has just been finishing them. Michigan stands up to me, is one of the most notable races this season. It felt like Hill could be in a place where he would end up at front, he would end up as a dominant driver, and he could end up winning. But obviously with the cautions that came out, with all the things that went down with strategy, Hill being on the short end of the stick and obviously getting damaged near the end and being involved in a crash, it took him out of contention. But Hill with an opportunity as we close in on 7 laps to go to grab his first win in this 2022 Four Wide Racing Cup season. And you brought up a great point, Francisco, earlier on tonight. The fact that he's seen the success of his team. He's seen Stocks Motorsports rise from a rookie team in this series who not many people knew about to a star-studded field of drivers over the handful of races this season and over the course of 2021. Last season, his teammates, Colin Forster, obviously went to victory lane in the first race of the season last year. AJ Green has gone to victory lane. He ended up as a champion last season. And Lance Hill, apart from a 4-wide racing ARCA Series win at Pocono, we have not seen him take a checkered flag on the Cup side of things. So this win would mean big-time popularity, big-time emotion out of the 38 who's looking for his first checkered flag, and he is only a handful of laps away from it. And it looks like the gap is not closing in enough time for Lawson Peel to make a difference. Still 9.5 seconds.
Yeah, just it's bouncing up and down, and it's rather inconsistent. So he has to do something to try and cut in the gap. Otherwise, he's going to be looking in his mirror for the 64 of Healy on the last lap to try and hold on to P2. But about Hill there, Kenneth, I think you're right about what you said, and you have to think also of Stocks Motorsports. Each one of their drivers, they predominantly own something, if you will. And look at that save there by Peel as the car snapped on exit. That's not what he's going to want. But each driver in Stocks Motorsports kind of owns a thing, if you will. So Adam Alishire, he got the win at Daytona. He has the Daytona win in his career on the Cup side. Colin Forster has the most of those Stocks Motorsports cars in the Cup Series. AJ Green has a championship for Stocks Motorsports. So I think they all kind of have their own thing for the team. And Lance Hill has the ARCA win, but he doesn't have anything in the Cup. So I think he wants to try and be the first driver of that team to go out here on a road course and get that win. And in the fashion that we've seen it, where he's basically led close to just past around 30 laps, really. He's been out front in this race. You see 25, and now obviously he's going to add 7 more to that if he's able to stay in the lead. So if he's able to lead from now to the end of the race, it'll be 32 out of 36 laps led, Kenneth, which that's just impressive, regardless of circumstance, where you're leading about 8/10 or 9/10 of a race. Just it's unimaginable. It's unthinkable. You can't really make up the words that describe a dominant effort like that. And I know you sat here before and seen it when I've been on the racetrack, but still, just being up here and seeing it done by somebody else on this type of racetrack, with Brian M. Smith, of course, having his struggles naturally on pace, I think that just goes to show the kind of skill that 38 does have behind him.
And when you see races like these dominant efforts, of course, Lance Hill obviously had a fight with Lawson Peel to get to this point. But apart from that, he's dominated this race. He's led the most laps. He's had the most distance between himself and second for a majority of the event up until that fight with the 12 car. And when you're looking at it from a third-person perspective, you have to appreciate just the constant skill it takes to perform lap after lap after lap in different corners every single time throughout, and still be as fast as possible and still keep the gap large between yourself and the rest of the competition. And you got to respect Lance Hill for doing this. Obviously, we've had the respect on Brian M. Smith when he's had outings like this. All the road course drivers, when they've been able to just put on absolute clinics on the rest of the field. And Lance Hill, no different, not an exception in this case. He is part of the rule, and he is only 6 laps, coming to 5 laps to go before his very first 4-wide Racing Cup victory. That's Curtis Kelly off of the grass. That is just before the carousel, but he'll pack it up very quickly, gather it up before any other troubles arise, and Lance Hill will probably have an easy time getting around this number 71 Chevrolet Camaro, who struggled a bit all night long. By the way, to mention, we only have 14 cars in this race out of the full 25 that started. Of course, we have multiple cars 1 lap down. It extends from Tony Kivitt in 11th all the way to Michael Newbraw in 14th. Everybody 15th on back have retired, and that does include drivers like Kevin D'Elia, Mark Harris, Tyler Warner, Jacob Smith, Brian M. Smith, Eric Schaefer, Jesse Priest, CJ Munier, and of course Daniel Michel in the number 25 car as Michael Newbraw goes off and away. But Lance Hill just needs to hold on to business and just keep it smooth, and he'll be a winner. Although there are some lap traffic here, so maybe it's not done.
Yeah, he has not been able to get by the 29, not yet anyways, and just kind of riding there. He's got someone else up ahead as well, so it's not clean racetrack, but yeah, I think right now he's kind of having to back it down just to ensure he doesn't get into the lap cars, because I think that's the last thing you want to do. You got the big lead now after the incident. I think the last thing you want to do is just give it all up by getting into a lap car, and he's actually going to lock up going into turn 1. Fortunately, unlike the lockup Reedy had, he's able to keep it on the racetrack, but fortunately he does still have a pretty decent enough lead to the rest of the top 3 that as long as he doesn't make a monumental mistake, I think he could just ride behind these guys until he has to get by them if the gap requires it being so. I think he's going to be very patient, probably let them stay in front of him, make them go off track if they make a mistake on their own, and kind of get by afterwards. Actually see a car off the track. I think that's Michael Newbraw again. You see it right there. It's he rejoins the racetrack just after Scott Healy goes by, and indeed that's Newbraw. And I think we saw a move there being made or attempted by the 29 to get past Craig Longsonger, unable to make that work. So that's indeed what Hill's going to do. He's just going to sit behind these guys unless they make a huge mistake and go off track, where he's just able to nicely pick them off one at a time. But you know, Kenneth, in the winding laps of this race, of course, we have road course race here today. Then we go back oval racing for the next 2 events, followed by, and there you see right there the mistake by the 29 that allows Hill to take the lead. But you know, we usually talk about this at least once on every road race. We're back again at COTA, and we're going to be going to Watkins Glen in about a month and a half or so, or actually closer to 2 months, really. What's a road course race that if you could choose to add on the schedule for with these cars, or just something different that we haven't heard before in previous calls? What's a road course race that you would consider adding to the schedule if you had the ability to do so?
Well, you add that clause of tracks that we haven't mentioned before on previous calls, because I remember this conversation happened at Pocono just 1 week ago. We were under one of those cautions talking about this race at Road America, and I had said Montreal. Of course, you had mentioned the Red Bull Ring. If there's any other road course that I may want to end up on a Cup Series schedule, maybe, I think Mid-Ohio. Very solid, very formidable NASCAR Xfinity Series road course race that they take on, or maybe even Portland. I think 2 of those tracks would be very fun to watch with these stock cars, very technical circuits, and very unique in their own right. So maybe Mid-Ohio, maybe a Portland International Raceway. I'd probably love to see it, because you added that clause and took away Montreal. I would have said Montreal 100 times over, but, you know, whatever. I'll go with Mid-Ohio. I'll take Portland. What about you?
Yeah, I made that because I know I would say Red Bull Ring again. But no, I think a good road course that we could see in the series, that would provide, I think, a good race, and an interesting one for that matter, is if we see these cars going to Detroit. I think Detroit is just an interesting racetrack. A lot of bumps there. Very technical racetrack. We see IndyCar go there, of course, in Belle Isle. I think if we were to take these next-gen Cup cars there, I think it'll be a very interesting race, because it'll kind of be like the Monaco of stock car racing, the barriers all the way around the racetrack. Yeah, the Charlotte Roval does have some runoff. I think that the Belle Isle would take the crown on that, because there's just walls, nothing but walls outlining that racetrack, and it's very difficult to drive. A lot of bouncing, and I think with these cars that are very sensitive with the driver's seat, I think you're going to have a lot of bouncing inside this stock car while trying to keep the car under control, which is difficult enough to do so.
And that would help with NASCAR's agenda to maybe add some street course races later on in NASCAR history. Of course, they have had talks about putting a potential street course in downtown Chicago. Of course, iRacing has implemented a very custom racetrack, the Chicago Street Course, that had made its debut with the eNASCAR Pro Invitational Series last year with his next-gen cars, and that was a doozy. A lot of drivers going. I remember Anthony Alfredo diving it deep into turn 1 on lap 1 and then ending up hitting the wall immediately. But I mean, that would help. Detroit, Belle Isle, very personality-based track. Of course, you put that in the same course as Long Beach on the IndyCar schedule. Sebring, a track that oozes with personality and with a lot of bumps, with a lot of kinks, a lot of different portions. That'd be a lot of fun to see Belle Isle on the schedule, especially with the recent news and the rumors that it may not be a race no more in that park because of maybe plans to move into actual downtown Detroit for IndyCar instead of having it in Belle Isle Park with the streets there at Detroit. That'd be a lot of fun to see. And with these next-gen cars, I mean, it's a whole lot of news. So new challenges and new trouble for Craig Lauenslager, who goes off at turn 14.
And that was just in front of Lance Hill, too. I think Hill probably actually clipped him just a little bit. So I think thankful that he's able to get by with minimal damage. His right front is going to have a little bit of a nick there. You see, that's where he goes around and he does get hit by Hill. So Hill, with some little bit of a right front damage, fortunate to be where it was, because if Lauenslager was a little bit more to the left, that could be catastrophic for the 38. He has nowhere to go, runs right into Lauenslager, and that could have very well been his race over. And that's why you have to stay on your heels if you're Lance Hill. Anything at any time can happen, as he took 3 laps to go there when he crossed the line. So still over 10 miles left in this race. So still about 5, 6 minutes, 7 minutes probably or so left in this race before he's able to pick up the checkered flag. But, you know, kind of just to finish on the road course as we were talking about, of course, this track is debuting in F1 in just about a month or so. But if it ever got added to iRacing, I think I would immediately buy it and race it with everything. And that's, of course, the Miami Grand Prix circuit over by Hard Rock Stadium. I would enjoy driving that racetrack knowing I'm 15 minutes away from it.
Yes, 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 and yes. you know me, I know you. We know we're both Miamians, we're both South Floridians. And I think when we heard the news that F1 was coming to Miami, our first instinct was, oh my God, I need to go see this. This is amazing. Obviously, the tickets are very expensive. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to go in person, but
I'm not.
It's still going to be a spectacle to see such an international series as Formula One head to South Florida and race in the parking lot just around where the Dolphins play in the NFL at Hard Rock Stadium. A very gorgeous stadium indeed, and a scenic place to go F1 racing. And obviously can't count out the fact that you also brought it up recently, the fact that F1 is going to Las Vegas, and I think now they're making an announcement on ESPN+. So keep your eyes peeled on what's going to be the details there for a possible Las Vegas strip race. That would be intense there, and I think a dream there for the F1 admins, everyone a part of Formula One. Very exciting to see more races added to the United States, to add on to Circuit of the Americas, the only U.S. race currently after, of course, Miami being added. Before Miami was added, and then Las Vegas later on, which is going to be in 2023. So that's going to be a lot of fun. More road course dynamics and more interesting tracks. Maybe iRacing can get a handle on the scans, maybe give us a Miami Grand Prix or give us a Las Vegas strip race. I think that would be a lot of fun.
I'll go to the iRacing headquarters as soon as possible and request them to scan the racetrack,
Fly to Chelmsford.
With a pitchfork, yes. I hope they do so. And, you know, you mentioned Las Vegas, of course. That was announced last weekend, and I think earlier today, I think it was spreading around that it's possibly going to be a Saturday night race. So a Saturday night race on Thanksgiving weekend in Las Vegas. I mean, that's about as American as it gets with regards to such an international series, as you mentioned. And of course, we don't know exactly where they're going to be racing at. Obviously not the Las Vegas Motor Speedway, that's an oval. But as far as which specific streets, the layouts, and all that sort of stuff that comes with trying to prep for a street course, we're of course not sure. I think the only common denominator that we can all imagine is that they're going to be somewhere in the Strip. Not sure if we're going to be near the Welcome to Las Vegas sign or closer to the Caesars Palace, but you can imagine it's going to be somewhere along there, along such famous buildings, famous sightings that you and I have both visited.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And what's interesting that comes to mind here, obviously has nothing to do with stock cars, is Lance Hill is edging closer to grabbing the white flag, just entered the carousel underneath the Speedville-Johnsonville Bridge. We'll head over to the King to grab the white flag here in this race tonight. But IndyCar has done a lot of those experiments. Las Vegas, one of them, of course, the unfortunate tragedy that was the Las Vegas Oval Race in 2011. But they have gone to the street course in Las Vegas, a newly made street course. Was back in 2007. Champ Car raced there before, obviously, Champ Car ended up folding back in 2008. And then in the early 2000s and even the late 90s and even into the 80s, IndyCar was racing in South Florida. They went to Bayfront Park. They tried Tamiami. They tried a bunch of different places to race at, race open-wheel American cars on the streets of many major cities in the U.S., Miami and Las Vegas being no exception to it. A lot of excitement for the future of racing and newly made courses, but our excitement lays here. Road America, the white flag will come out for Lance Hill, the 38, looking for his very first 4-wide racing Cup Series victory. He's one lap away from it.
Yeah, also in about 2.5 minutes, just a little bit less than that, he'll be coming around to complete the lap. So we still got a ways to go for as far as one laps are concerned. But getting back to the race itself, Kenneth, what a drive by Lance Hill today. I think he's not normally a name you think of with road racing, but he's been up there. He's been at the front. At Watkins Glen last season, he was running in the top 3 with teammates Colin Forrester, AJ Green, and of course the race winner Brian M. Smith. He was running good at the Roval as well. So even though you don't think of his name too often with road races, he's been up there. I do recall very recently in a different broadcast that I was in for the FIRS series at Daytona Road Course, Lance Hill was very strong in that one, was able to get a stage win, and unfortunately came up short with the race win, ended up finishing second in that one. He was very close to Michael Kenner for the most part in that specific event. And I think after that one, after seeing that race from above as well, and coming into a race like this, I think I was a little bit more expective, I guess you could say is the word, of the 38s having a good performance. I just didn't think it would be this performance, knowing that we would have Brian M. Smith. But I think that's been the shocker, Kenneth. Aside from the great performance we've seen out of Hill, it was very shocking to see Smith just lack the pace.
That is definitely true. Smith, a struggle tonight. Obviously out of this race earlier on, but it left a fantastic battle for the lead in the last segment of tonight's race. And you also got to give credit to Lawson Peel, a stellar drive all race long, and put the pressure on Lance Hill when it looked like nobody could do so in the first segment of this race. But obviously the incident happened at Canada Corner. You see a little scuffle there between 2 cars up in front. But if Hill can clear it, if Hill can get around cleanly, none of that will matter. And Lance Hill will be a winner for the first time in 2022. He's been close. He's had pace, but he's never gone the checkered flag. Watching his teammates get from checkered flag to championship trophy. But now he will join them on the win column out of turn 14 for the final time here at America's National Park of Speed. And up the hill to Barney the Flagman, Lance Hill will grab his first win this year. He is a 4-Wide Racing Cup winner. He does it from Elkhart Lake.
And there you see Barney. He's going to be waving that checkered flag for a while, just like he was waving the white flag for a while. So I feel bad for his arm. I hope he had a good workout this weekend. He's had to really use it today now in this 5-minute portion. Otherwise, it's been a clean day for him. But Lawson Peel, you hate to feel for him, Kenneth. He was right on the 38 for most of that second run at the beginning of the third run. Unfortunately, they made that contact there racing for the lead. We saw that again. We'll just briefly touch on it. The 12 was going for the move on the inside, so the right-hand side going into Canada Corner. Hill was being very aggressive defending, and they just happened to come together. Hill was fortunate to stay out of the sand/dirt trap that they have there at the end of Canada Corner, and the 12 was not so lucky. So he's going to pull off here right where Chase Elliott pulled off last season, and he's going to celebrate off of turn 5. We have another first-time winner, Kenneth, out of the Stonks Motorsports team, and it came a season later than where most of them did it, but I think he's happy to finally get that first win. And on a road course, much like the paint he ran today, Ross Chastain got his first win on a road course a couple days ago.
A gorgeous sight. There's Scott Healy there watching the celebration, of course. We'll congratulate
He's going to
the driver
celebrate
of the
with him.
38. We'll actually do a burnout with him, so a double burnout here at Road America. Maybe add in a triple here of Curtis Kelly with the third driver in it. But Lance Hill, obviously the emotions running high, the happiness running high for the 38 as he wins for the first time this year. What an unbelievable journey it's been from rookie driver in Season 3 to second-year sophomore in Season 4. And finally, he's able to show the Cup Series field that he can go out and win races, and he can actually close off, and he does it. He'll obviously exit turn 5. That's where he did the burnouts, and he'll make the lap back to the front straightaway. We'll wait if he ends up doing a burnout in that portion of the track in front of the virtual fans. Maybe they will want to see it. But nonetheless, Lance Hill, your winner. And with that, we'll take a look at your full field results. See exactly where every single driver finished at the end of 36 grueling laps from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Lance Hill, your winner tonight by a total of 9.2 seconds, although it was down to pretty much 0 against Lawson Peel at one point tonight. Lawson Peel, though, performs a great drive. And by the way, he is gone in the top 10 at the end of races from every single race, from race 2 all the way till now. Daytona was the only race he did not have a top 10 in, so he continues the streak of very high finishes will help him in the point standings along with his wins. Scott Healy, though, very quiet afternoon in sim, very quiet evening in real life, but he ends up in P3. We'll talk to him by the time we end up finishing tonight's broadcast. Colin Forster, also very stealthy, very quiet, but still a good point stay out of the road course. He finishes in 4th. Austin Reedy, your Daytona winner from this season, caps off the top 5. And then it's Brandon Banks, a recovery drive from incidents in the first lap of tonight's race. He comes home in 6th. And then AJ Green, 7th. He'll be the final driver on the lead lap. He'll celebrate with his Stocks Motorsports teammates, no doubt, in a little bit. Cody Kinsey be the first driver 1 lap down in 8th. Craig Longslogger was in a battle with another driver. I believe it was the 71 of Curtis Kelly. He's not in this top 10. Tony Kivet is the final driver in a 10th spot, also 1 lap down.
Brian Dixon's going to end up with a pretty solid P11. That's better than what he's been seeing the last couple of outings, so good job for him. Curtis Kelly, the first and only car 2 laps down, so that was the car that was racing with Luttenslogger. Christopher Bishop had some troubles. He finishes in 13th. Michael Newbraw, we saw him off a couple times near your leaders, 14th. Cody O'Neill was the most recent retirement in the race. He finishes in 15th. Kevin D'Elia had a good start to the race. Unfortunately, will finish 16th. Marquis Harris, your Auto Club winner, will finish in 17th. Tyler Warner had some problems finishing 18th. And the shock of the race, Kenneth, no pace tonight out of the 78 of Brian M. Smith, who finishes in 19th after retiring in the middle portion of the race. We'll have to see at the next road course if this was purely the car or if it was just a track thing. That'll be a thing for that time. Jacob Smith, the other Smith, is going to finish in the 20th spot. And your last 5 drivers, Eric Schaefer, last week's winner, not a good return this week, getting involved in a wreck twice on the first lap in 21st. Corey Allen finishing in 22nd, involved in lap 1 crash. Jesse Prees will finish 23rd. CJ Munier in 24th. And Daniel Michaud was the first retirement of the race on lap 1. And that rounds out your 25-car field. And you see them, Stocks Motorsports, they're all celebrating on the front straightaway, much like you said they would.
Stocks Motorsports strong, all 3 of them celebrating here on the front straightaway at Road America. Of course, the virtual fans gonna love all of that. What a drive it's been for this team overall. I mean, last season to pull up with rookie stripes and didn't have many expectations at all from them, and then all of a sudden they go out and win the race, the first race of that 2021 Season 3 campaign, and then go on to pick up where they left off here in Season 4 2022. Lance Hill gets the win here tonight from Road America. So it will be our time to take a moment and talk with your top 3. Of course, we will start with the driver who ends up in victory lane tonight, this evening. And finally, Lance Hill is a winner in 2022. We'll take a moment to drag him into the broadcast booth and into victory lane here tonight from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. He is your winner. We'll bring in Lance Hill, and I know the celebration's already underway, but Lance, what a drive. You led a majority of this race, and it looked like from the drop of the green flag with you in pole, even with the little hecticness that was that initial start, you were able to overcome that. You were able to surge ahead, and even with the battle with Lawson Peel in the mid portion of the race, you held on, you persevered, and you're a winner for the first time in the Cup Series. First of all, how does it feel to get a win in this fashion?
It feels great, to be honest with you. I really didn't expect to win at this racetrack, and this is my first race driving a Chevy. You might see me in a Chevy a few more times this season, but it feels amazing, to be honest with you. It's been like a season and a half, or almost a season and a half now, and finally I pulled it off, and there's a little bit of controversy, but what first wins do. They bring a little controversy sometimes.
And take us through that fight with Lawson Peel. Of course, after that second pit stop, the final one to get to the end of this race, you guys were nose to tail, and even before that, you guys are fighting for the lead. But what was it like to go toe-to-toe with a driver like Lawson, who's already won 3 races this season, and to do it in the fashion that you both did, just trading places and keeping each other there for many laps on end here?
Well, this is my first ever race in the next gen road course, especially one as hard as Road America. And I know he's been doing a lot of road course races with the next gen, and I knew he had a lot more experience than me. So I knew he was probably going to end up catching me, but I knew I had to defend him. Every chance he got to me. So I blocked him a few times, and he wasn't very happy about that, understandable. But I knew I could not let him get past me, because I knew if he got past me, then it was pretty much over from there, and he was just probably going to end up driving away from me. And I blocked him a few times, and he wasn't very happy. But He got past me and I pulled the undercut and got back out in front of him, and then we was racing there and he ended up catching me, and I kind of stole his line away for the entry, and then instead of him trying to go on the outside, he just decided he's going to drive through me. So seemed like he got the worst out of that deal, so it's on him. Yeah, it was a pretty fun battle. Wish it would have lasted to the end of the race, but you know, it happens.
Well, nonetheless, you overcome what happened there. You're able to pull away, and you're now a winner. 32 laps led here tonight from Road America. I think our final question before we let you say your thanks to everybody who makes it possible. Did you by any chance have a watermelon in the car, or have Ross Chastain magic in you, because you pulled up with this paint scheme? Obviously, you said your first time running a Camaro here in this series, but you pulled up out of all paint schemes you could slap on the car. You put the iFly Trackhouse scheme that went to victory lane this past weekend. Was there any superstition there with Ross Chastain's win and your expectations with the paint scheme tonight?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm a pretty big Ross Chastain fan myself, so I feel like it was kind of appropriate to run this paint scheme this week. Would have been a road course, and I decided I was going to run it and see what happens. And you know, I guess things happen when this paint scheme's lucky. I gotta say, it's lucky in real life and lucky with me. So I wish I had a watermelon, because I would have loved to smash it on the front stretch.
You know what? We'll send you one on behalf of MaxSpeedTV. We'll see that happen. We'll get a video of Lance Hill throwing a watermelon down. But nonetheless, an outstanding drive, an amazing race. You end up with the checkered flag. Before we let you go, Lance, of course, as always, anybody you want to thank for making this run and tonight's win all possible? Yeah,
I want to thank my teammates at Stonks Motorsports with AJ, Curtis, Colin, and Kevin, and Austin for just being great teammates, even though Austin ain't here. I want to thank them for being amazing teammates and helping me there with the pit strategy and everything, because I was really needing some help with that, because I've never really done pit strategy on a road course. And also want to thank my parents for broadcasting me, and my entire family for watching me and supporting me, and thank you guys for broadcasting as well.
Well, they'll be a happy group, no less, because they'll end up seeing Lance Hill in the forefront of the screen as your winner here tonight. Of course, on behalf of our team, Lance, want to congratulate you on your first ever 4Wide Racing Cup Series victory from Road America. And we'll be back over racing in 1 week time, so we'll get back into the rhythm. We'll hope to see you at New Hampshire. But for now, congratulations. We'll let you celebrate the win.
Thanks, guys. Hope to see you next week.
That's Lance Hill leading 32 laps en route to his first 4Wide Racing Cup Series victory from Road America. And of course, I think we will indeed send him the watermelon, and we'll get him to smash it on the floor. That is ceremonial if you wear or have a Ross Chastain paint scheme on your car. We'll bring in the driver who comes home in second, and it is an empty-handed trip to the finish line of the checkered flag for Lawson Peel. But I think Francisco Bacallao, it's a night to be proud of.
Lawson, we saw it was another great outing from you. You had a fast car for most of the race. That first run was a struggle. You fell down a couple spots. You got it to second. We're challenging for the lead all race. You think that this could have gone any different if that first run had gone different?
Yeah, absolutely. I took it easy on that first lap there, and several of those guys sent it down into the first turn and then the second turn. So I went from second to fifth before I knew it. And that kind of just set me behind a little bit for that whole run and put me in catch-up mode. Lance jumped out there and, set a really fast pace, faster than I wanted to run. So, forced me to drive harder than I wanted to maintain pace with him. Yeah, if I could have sprinted right out there with him on that first lap, it might have been different.
Yeah, of course, after that, we saw it was basically you two for the middle portion of the race in that second run. And, of course, after he performed the undercut to get in front of you on the last green flag pit stops, it was fantastic racing. Kenneth and I, we were talking about it. That was some of the best road racing we've seen, battling for the lead and for the win. And, you two delivered. But, of course, eventually that came to an end with, at this part of the racetrack where the replay is showing right now on the broadcast, just before Canada Corner, it looked as though you tried to squeeze one down the inside, and unfortunately you guys came together. Can you kind of talk about what happened there?
Yeah, I caught up to him at some point, I guess right after that first stop, and again, he was running a really fast pace, and we seemed to be pretty even. I felt like I was a little better, but not by much. I mean, it was challenging to stay with him, and so I caught him, and I think he ran off in one time, and kind of I didn't know if he was going to spin or not. So I kind of let off a little bit, and he kind of merged back onto the track. And I got way out of the gas for him, to give him a chance to merge back in. Certainly didn't mind, but yeah, he kind of wanted to block me and run me off the track right when I tried to get alongside of him after that. So I was like, okay. And then happened again somewhere on, I think, turn 6, something like that. And so I don't know. He was kind of sending the message to me that I was gonna have to move him to pass him, and he was gonna block me. I was a little surprised with the extent he was blocking me. I know I've got 3 wins, and he wanted to win, and certainly take no issue with him racing me hard or harder than harder than anybody else. If I was in his position, I would probably do the same. So I take no issue with that. But when you cut my nose off and block me every time I get a run on you, it kind of puts me in a position where I either sit there and ride behind you, or I have to do something. So we got to run on him down the backstretch there, and I thought he was gonna. He started to move over to block, and I thought he was gonna leave me enough space on the right to where I could get alongside of him, but that definitely didn't happen. So I probably shouldn't have forced the issue there as much as I did. I should have just lived to see another corner and kept battling with him. I think I was absolutely better than him, and I would have gotten him eventually. So looking back on that probably wasn't a good move, but I thought I was going to be able to get along his right side. But I mean, he blocked the crap out of me, and I got him in the right rear, and then got off the track, couldn't get back on, and he was able to spend less time recovering from that than me, and that was the difference.
Is this something that moves past this race?
Like I said, I don't take any issue with him racing me hard and blocking a little bit, but when you do that to a guy, it definitely invites the other guy to race you the same way, and I'm definitely a big believer in racing people how they race you. So I'm certainly not going to be letting him go if he catches me and he's faster for the next little while. I mean, if he wants to race like that, I can race him like that. But he was fast, and he wanted to win the race, and he did win the race, and he deserved it. And congratulations to him. And I certainly take no issue with him driving hard and wanting to win the race. But that definitely kind of sends a message to me that he wants to race hard, so I can race him hard as well.
Of course, you still managed to get the P2, so still, as far as points are concerned, a good job by you. And of course, a good team around you to be able to get in this position. So you can kind of give the shout outs to those people that help make this possible. And when you're done with that, kind of give us your opinions on what you expect out of New Hampshire next week.
Yeah, shout out to my Drinking Bros teammates. Just really enjoy having good camaraderie, team atmosphere with these guys every week. So it certainly makes it a whole lot more fun. So thanks to all my Drinking Bros teammates, and Tyler and Austin Reedy and Kyle Benson and everybody that makes things happen here at 4 Wide. And thanks to you guys for putting on a fantastic broadcast as always. We really enjoy going back and watching it and being broadcasted. So enjoyed racing with everybody this week in Loudon. We will see. That's kind of a hit or miss track. I don't think I've practiced much, or maybe not at all, here in the next gen. So I'm typically not great at the shorter tracks, but yeah, that's a track. Anything can happen. I mean, you get that short track style racing, so should be fun. Should be a good broadcast.
We appreciate you taking the time with us, Lawson. A tough loss, but oval racing again next week at New Hampshire. We hope to see you just one spot better for your sake. Again, thank you for taking the time, and wish you luck next week.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
That's Lawson Peel, who comes home in P2 here tonight from Road America. And also to mention, he continues his top 10 streak that started all the way back in Phoenix, where he went for his first 4 Wide Racing Cup victory in 2022. But we'll take it back to one of the former champions this season, and driver was rather quiet all evening long. 64 of Scott Healy. We've got him now trackside. Scott, of course, obviously not at the forefront of the battle for first and second, but a very clean afternoon in sim of racing for you here at Road America. Just walk us through how it was behind the wheel to handle this racetrack and do it with the strategy in mind as well.
Car was kind of loose in the beginning of the race, just trying to keep it steady. I knew I had kind of the pace on the first and second place car, but I just didn't have the full speed as they did. Um, After blowing that first pit stop, I decided to take it easy and try to make it home in P3, and hopefully they wreck each other, but that wasn't the case. So ended up P3, took it easy, and finished the race. So congratulations on them both. They did an amazing job, and yeah.
And of course, with the field having a lot of the first lap jitters and of course the mistakes that came with a track that really doesn't have a lot of asphalt when it comes down to runoff area. But the SpongeBob SquarePants car, very clean at the end. What was the key to keeping a race car like this, especially when a lot of drivers over a handful of laps would end up making mistakes out of very technical corners here at this track?
You have to keep it calm, keeping the car straight. Try not to push the car too much. These tires are very weird. They're not like the last gen cars where you could feel it a lot better. These cars are a little bit different, especially with the independent suspensions. So just like trying to keep the car straight and clean as possible, and trying to keep your nerves a little bit down and focus on the track instead of the cars.
Well, you race the track cleanly, you end up in P3, and of course a very good point stay. And now we go back to oval racing, which is the staple, of course, of this 4Wide Racing Cup Series season. We head to New Hampshire. We go up to the Northeast next week. What are your thoughts on that track and how you feel you're going to do there?
Pretty good. That's my home track, so hopefully I can bring it home.
Of course, home track win would mean very big things for you, Scott, but of course a very good run here tonight from Road America on the road course. Before we let you go, Scott, anybody you want to thank for making tonight's run happen?
I'd like to thank you guys. You guys do an amazing job. Murray Reedy Motorsports, friends, family, and that's about it, guys.
Well, we certainly appreciate the time. Of course, Scott, thank you for taking the time to talk with us. And as always, on behalf of our team, congratulations on the third place finish from Road America. We look forward to seeing you 1 week from tonight at New Hampshire.
Alrighty, guys. I'll see you then. Hopefully I can bring in a victory lane. Have a good night, guys.
Scott Healy is the final driver in the top three. One lap led to his credit, but a very clean race overall for him. I think a lot of good notes to be taken out of Road America tonight for not only him, but for the top two who did well all race long. We'll turn it back to the broadcast booth, and I think, Francisco, if I'm not mistaken, this was, in fact, the best road course race I have seen in the field, especially when it came down to battling and strategy by a mile. Of course, Watkins Glen had its positives. Of course, we've had the Charlotte Roval with its positive, with its drama, but I don't think any can step up to the level that Road America has brought us tonight, especially with a track making its debut in this series.
It was a really good race, Kenneth, and that's not something we normally say out of road courses, not because of the tracks themselves, but because usually you have a lot of separation. There's just not much battling going on. Today, that was not the case. This race with these cars, it brought it. For the most part of the field, it was the case, but especially for the lead of the race. We saw a great battle, one that's going to be remembered for a while after this one, between Lawson Peel and Lance Hill. And you heard from both of those drivers what their opinions were from that incident with around 9 laps to go that happened on the track just after the green flag pit stop. So for the most part, it's done through a couple of damaged fenders and all that, but Lance Hill did what he had to do to win the race. He said he did what he had to do. Peel doesn't blame him for that, but next week, new racetrack, new race, new opportunity. It's going to be behind them, and we're going to be very excited to see what New Hampshire provides to us with these next-gen cars, because, of course, we haven't exactly seen that combination yet. And, before sending it back to you, Kenneth, you mentioned there near the end of the call the news report that was coming out on the Las Vegas racetrack tonight. And actually what ended up being shown was the layout for the racetrack that they're going to be running on Thanksgiving weekend next year. So they're going to be racing on the Strip. That's where the big straightaway is going to be. They're going to go past the Caesar Palace, the Eiffel Tower, and they're going to go near the Cosmopolitan building, and they're going to turn off there and going to race on a back street that goes past there, past the high roller, before they end up near the Wynn Hotel, back onto that long straightaway. So I think it's a very interesting racetrack. Certainly going through a lot of the sightseeing portions of that city. Having walked that road, I know exactly what it's going to look like at night, because the race is going to be at around 5 p.m. Eastern, and that's close to the sunset time. So I think it's going to be very interesting of a race. Of course, a year and a half away. Just wanted to make sure that I got to that point in tonight's call, since it was mentioned that that was news being reported tonight. And on top of that, of course, we know, great job, Lance Hill, first career win for Stonks Motorsports and first career win in the Cup Series. I know he's going to be real happy to try and defend that and trying to get some more next season. So those are the two things I kind of want to leave it off on.
Hey, I'm already one step ahead of you. I have the countdown and everything, bro. I've got the days, the hours, the minutes, the seconds. But
We'll
no,
go
for real.
together.
No, for real. Las Vegas is going to be exciting for F1. But a lot of excitement tonight at Road America. Again, big props to Lance Hill, Lawson Peel, bringing us a fantastic race from head to toe, when it started all the way to, of course, the drama in Canada Corner. But a lot of highs here from this race. And, of course, you're looking at the schedule at the forefront of your screen. Next week, we head to the Northeast. We head to Lobstertown, New Hampshire, Loudon. That will be, our coverage will begin, of course, in next week on Wednesday. That'll be April 6th, April 5th. If I'm not mistaken, that'll be, of course, at 9:10 p.m. Eastern, right here on the MaxSpeedTV YouTube channel. Francisco and I will be along for the call. Then we'll head over to Indianapolis, and then, of course, after every 5 races, we'll have 1 week off, so we'll have a little bit of time before we get to the second road course race of this season 4 schedule. We'll head over to Austin, Texas for Circuit of the Americas, and of course, we'll head all the way to our third road course of the season, Watkins Glen, before we end the regular season off at Kansas, begin the playoffs in Nashville Superspeedway, and of course, finalize our season over in the Wild West at the Texas Motor Speedway. So a gorgeous, scenic venue here at Road America, and a great race to complement it. What a night it's been from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, where Lance Hill takes his first 4-Wide Racing Cup Series victory this season, and of course in all of his tenure racing in this competition. We'll of course thank everybody for taking a part in this race tonight. Got to thank everybody on behalf of the 4Wide team for making this all possible. For Tyler Murray, who's unfortunately not here tonight, our race control this evening, Austin Reedy, everybody a part of the team and the race council that makes things happen each and every week. And for all of us here at MaxSpeedTV, and for my colleague in the booth tonight, Francisco Bacalhau, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Saying so long for the first road course of 2022. It'll be a couple of weeks before we get to the second one. But for now, New Hampshire coming up next week right here on MaxSpeedTV.